Hey folks, good evening. Welcome to another weekly space with me, Kalu Aja. Of course, on our space, we're talking money, we're talking the economy, and of course, we're talking finance. And this week, we have to just go back to the biggest story we have going on in the world right now, which affects, of course, the economy. It affects your personal finances. It affects the finances of the largest economies all over the world. That's, of course, the war in the Middle East between Iran and Israel and the United States. Far reaching consequences. So, of course, we've got to address that and see how that plays into our portfolios, into our income, and into everything that we've done, right? So, you know how we do this week. We're going to share a lot of slides. We're going to review the economy as it stands, what's going on so far. I think we're about a week into the conflict. We're going to try to review what has happened in the economy of Nigeria and, of course, the globe 1 week in. Try to see what we can project would happen going forward into the week, if possibly it stops. And then, of course, try to give recommendations as it were. It's not going to be all educational, right? There's no investments advice per se. We're not telling you to go buy this or sell this, but it's all going to be like all educational and all. We're going to try to do that. And then, of course, we are going to have guests on the studio to also give us their take on what they think is going on and how we can, should we say, mitigate all of that, right? So fantastic. So I've got my slides up. So if you want to follow, I'm just going to share a lot of slides. I'm not sure what's happening with YouTube. YouTube is kind of iffy. Let me try to redo it again, and then we'll sort of get it. So we have both YouTube and Twitter on, because I like the slides on YouTube, and I think you guys also like it, and you guys also follow, because you can see most of what we're talking about. It's really going to be like, you can see the visuals. Visuals are very, very good to talk about markets and all that. I do like it. So if you give me a sec, I will just type out the YouTube setting. You just roll it, then go through, and then we'll get it off. Again, it's going to be like, I like interactive spaces. So if you want to speak after we're talking, just request to speak. I like it when you do request to speak than when you type in the questions, because then I can just read or hear you, and then of course just respond, right? Okay, so give me a second here. Risks and reward of Olumide is here. Olumide, hi, how you doing, Olumide? Of course, Olumide is our special guest here on the space. So Olumide, welcome. Olumide, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself so folks know who you are, and of course tell us just who you are.
Good evening, Carl. Thanks for inviting me. This is always a pleasure to be with you. For those, good evening, everyone. 7 p.m.
Yeah, 7 p.m.
Yeah. So, my name is basically Olumide Additional, written out there. I particularly live, dine, and sleep with the financial market. I've been covering the space for more than 2 decades. I write basically for different financial media websites around the world. I also have my own financial agency firm in Paris, where I work with banks and European banks, particularly in terms of content and financial market management, in terms of how the perception towards investors and making things simple for the public. So that's what I do, and it's great to be here, especially with the theme around crude oil in Africa. Thank you for inviting me, Carl.
Thanks, Olumide. Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'm going to just go into it real quick, right? Like I said, I've got a few slides here. So I just want to lay out what's going on in the world and, of course, the economy so far. Then after that, you can sort of give us your own take, right? What you think is happening, for say. So let me just go straight in here, Olumide. Give me a sec. Okay, guys, so let me go. I'm just going to go on and just start to share underneath the tweet for this space. So we've got our first title there, Risks and Reward of higher crude oil prices. We want to talk around some things that we're not really focusing on. I know this story is going to be an energy story, but it's a story about food and fertilizer that we're really not speaking about, which is what I want to get Olumide's take into as we go along. But let's start with, first of all, the market, the financial market. I'm sharing, also, if you can also look at the slide, I'm sharing a slide here from the market, the US market. I've done 1 week, 1 month, and 3 month performance, just for us to capture, as it were, right, what's happening in the global economy in terms of weekly performance. You look at the 3 month slide, look at the 1 month slide, look at the 1 week slide. Just visually, you can see a fall in performance. You can see 3 months ago, energy, materials, industrials, consumer defense, very, very important. Consumer defense was very, very high, i.e., they were in the green. They were making money for us in a 3 month period. A month now to a week, everything, every asset class, i.e., every market line in the asset class of equities is now posting a negative return apart from energy, because energy prices have gone up. So if you look at the entire S&P, the Nasdaq, the US markets per se, tech is down, communication is down, real estate is down, utilities, cyclicals, financials, healthcare, industrials, consumer defensive, which is usually like what we run to when there's uncertainty, also down. Basic materials also down. There was this trade about if you buy gold and you buy silver, you are making a lot of money. Right now, everything apart from energy is up. And even energy that is up has fallen from about 21% down to about 1% return if you look at it on a year-to-year basis. Lumine, what's your take right now on this? Just looking at this picture, where we even see that energy that is even up, oil prices are up about $90 a barrel, is still just posting a very anemic return, and every other asset class in the world, including gold, including silver, including materials, are all posting negative return as we speak right now. What's your take on this?
This is a multi-million dollar question, Kalu. To be honest with you, there are a lot of dimensions. If you look at it, there's no straightforward answer. But just to give a background and give a foundational story, the US stock market has performed incredibly well since the advent of President Trump. The AI disruption, despite some concerns that tariffs will weigh the market, we saw a market-friendly president, a president that really was the forefront for innovation, and that's where we saw a lot of companies breaking the $4 trillion mark. A number of companies like Google, Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft. While some of them have retraced back to the below the $4 trillion mark, it tells you how much inflows were coming from different markets. The US stock market is the most liquid, efficient, and the biggest market in terms of wealth. That it brings in some of the world's most successful companies, and unsurprisingly, that's why all eyes usually is on that market. However, just to fast forward, we understood that we're looking at the market cycle at some point. Before the Iran situation or the Venezuela situation, we saw at some point that the market seems saturated, that it got a bit ugly, that despite the fact that some companies were bringing out incredible earnings, the stocks refused to budge, and some bookmakers were already wondering if we're not already at the overbought situation. That's a technical term for meaning that the stock is overvalued or it's at its peak. And the way things work, particularly in the bubble phase, is that the higher the bubble, the more fragile the market becomes. So fast forward to 2026, if you look at the Magnificent Seven, for example, where you Tesla, you look at Nvidia, Apple, Google, they all bring in year-to-date of negative. Unsurprisingly, despite amazing results they posted, fairly amazing results they posted in 2025. Some concerns is that, these tech giants are spending more on AI. They feel that that will erode margins, and also weighing geopolitical uncertainty around the world also weigh on that. However, I feel that some of these companies have already positioned themselves. You look at the case of Oracle recently announcing the fact that they're going to lay off thousands of workers. Because if you look at what is happening with AI disruptions, we've found out that foundational jobs, particularly jobs for first entry to mid-level, can critically be covered by AI. We've seen Morgan Stanley reducing their investment banking by 2,500 employees, and that really sent shockwaves to financial stocks across board. So, Carlo, now bringing the Middle East dimension to it, that's really brought in. But before that, also, I remember that Donald Trump shocked the market. We were expecting the fact that the person that will replace Powell will be a dove. A dove is somebody that usually is less aggressive towards interest rate hike. He's more inclined to lower interest rates. And we expected that was what, because he had always been complaining about high interest rates, but he shocked the market, and that was beginning of gold's problem. At some point, gold looked like it was going to break above 6,000 per ounce, but immediately the news frequently about his nominee, and you're looking at his background check, the man is quite hawkish, meaning it's more aggressive or stationary towards neutral towards lower interest rates. So that trickled gold and other pressure, and that's where silver started dropping below the $100 per ounce mark. So you see different dimensions. Then Iran issue came in. Now Iran, that's another. I know you have a space for that conversation, but I just want people to understand that different actions show that the market was already at a point of fragility, but it just needed a catalyst to really take the market correction. But I think it's fair for me to say, because I am heavily exposed in fact, I'm more exposed in the US stock market than the Nigerian stock market based on my career.
Okay, fine. So in essence, the market itself is reacting. Should we say, are you saying it's reacting too much to what's happening in Iran? That every sector apart from energy is down, and even the energy that is down has gone from 21% return 3 months ago to about 1.43. So it does show how fragile the market is, or how connected the market is just to crude oil. I mean, what concerns, should we say, Nvidia, for instance, with say crude oil and Strait of Hormuz, but we're seeing it today that Nvidia is somehow connected to Strait of Hormuz. Is that what we're seeing? Olimide's dropped off. Okay, sorry, I'm going to just invite him real quick. I'm just going to invite him. But that's the point I make. So again, guys, if you really want to follow the discussion, try to follow the tweets I'm sharing online, because you can see what I'm asking Olumide really in terms of those numbers. If you look at the numbers from, I told you, if you look at numbers from 3 months ago, you will see a huge fall. Literally everything in the world is doing badly now. Every single thing in the world. And if we then go into the futures, because what I shared, that was the market as at 3 months ago. If I copy the futures, where the market is going to say the market is going to open on Monday, the market is saying that everything is going to continue to be down on Monday. We're going to get just crude oil is still going to be up, natural gas is going to be up, and gold is still going to be up big time. Apart from that, the entire market, the Dow, the S&P, the Nasdaq, the Russell, everything is still going to be down. Olumide, hi. You dropped off, right? So what I was what I was asking was that, right? So in essence, the market is saying that everything in the world seems to be connected to crude oil and what's happening in this tiny strait called the Strait of Hormuz. So literally Nvidia, Microsoft, Tesla, names that we usually would not associate with crude oil or with anything. You're saying they are still connected back to crude oil because everything is down.
Very true.
Is that our takeaway?
Yeah, very true. It's even going to get worse, Carlo, because, for example, particularly in rich countries, energy plays a major role. One of the way we financial market analysts view inflation is that we find that food inflation is prevalent in poorer countries, energy inflation is prevalent in richer countries. So for Americans, for example, we're looking more at energy inflation. When you look at the fact that bookmakers are already placing $4.5 $8 per gallon in the world's largest economy, and petrol prices has increased by more than 50% in 4 months. I think that's worrisome. And when you have higher energy costs, it reduces economic consumption. And there's something that you tweeted there, you mentioned, it's better to have higher inflation than no consumption. I think a lot of people in Nigeria are unaware of that. And that was one of the things that really upsets me when I was talking about our policymakers being proactive, because what is happening in America right now, you could see the United States are already positioning short-term measures. The mistakes President Trump did, though he seems to be correcting it, was that he didn't refuel because there's something America usually have, strategic reserves. So during Biden time, I think it went down. And
the strategic petroleum reserves.
Yeah. It didn't. So that's also, the market is looking at that. And when you see a country like Kuwait saying that they have a force majeure, they can't meet their contract obligations. This was the last time we heard that was during the Gulf War in 1991. I think it becomes worrisome. So yes, I'm not surprised. I feel like I'm just waiting for how the market will react on in the next couple of hours, because if you look at how traders are betting on CFDs and other derivatives, particularly on hyper liquid, crude oil is already $115. When I was looking at Friday's chart, Bonnie Light was $92. Brent was heading to 94, but it came back because President Trump tried to calm the market that, they're going to give guarantees and they're going to protect. But the way Iran has escalated the situation, they've been able to show that they are not just a country that holds 200 billion barrels of crude oil in proven reserves. They also have a major role in the most important oil routes, where the disruption has really affected 20% of the world's crude oil supply.
Interesting. So the takeaway is that everything is connected back to crude oil. The markets are all connected back to what happens in the price of crude oil, which drives in inflation, which drives interest rates. Maybe that's what they are reacting to. Okay, let me.
And also has affects the dollar, because the dollar and yes.
Well, we'll come to that famous dollar. So again, if you're following on Twitter, I shared the futures market limited. So everything is up. Every energy product is up. Crude oil, gas, and gold are up. Stocks are down. So anything to do with energy is up. Anything to do with the variable income is down. U.S. bonds and U.S. dollar are up. That we're going to come to that. U.S. bonds, U.S. dollar are up. Crypto is down. So what we're seeing is that there's uncertainty, and the market has responded by running to safety. What does the market call safety? U.S. bonds, U.S. dollar, not even gold. They didn't run to gold. They ran to the U.S. dollar and to the U.S. bonds. So they sold everything. And that's what's affecting you. We can talk this now to Naira. The Naira has lost value in the last 1 week. Most of the gains Naira had gained because of the weak dollar. When Donald Trump has said that he wants a weaker dollar, the market has now sort of given it back because investors have gone back to the strong dollar. You want to speak about what's happening now with particular reference to the run to safety of the strong dollar and all that?
Yeah. Because it's something I actively cover, particularly in the Nigerian space. So I understand our cases towards the foreign exchange market, but the dynamics of the Nigerian market is very complex, because our market is kind of isolated in a larger aspect when you look at the fact that it's not fully efficient and it's not solely connected to the global market. But let's go into what is really happening. Like you mentioned, the very important points now, that safety, and you're totally right. One of the reasons why gold went up was not particularly retail buying, it was institutional and central bank buying, particularly from China and Russia. But now that it looks like a deal between Russia and the United States is coming to play, particularly around that zone, I noticed that the gold bulls had difficulty breaking the 5,500 resistance level. So at some point, it was just a matter of to see. So we need triggers. We need powerful triggers. Yes, you can argue that the dollar as a safe currency, as the number one safe, has lost dominance, but it's still the most powerful currency in terms of influence and in terms of first choice for investors run to safety. And when you look at that, the British pound, the euro, they've all dropped. The US economy also has strong output, even as we are seeing still weakening position in the US payroll data is still relatively stronger than the Europeans and other richer economies. So I'm not surprised about that, but we have concerns, Carlo. We see the fact that the US debt is getting out of hand. We see the fact that Japan is reducing their US Treasury holdings. China had been doing that for a couple of while. So that also has triggered uncertainty. Then, though it looks symbolic, the Europeans are looking less interested in US securities, though that looks quite symbolic when you saw them taking exits of over $100 million position in the US debt market. However, those optics really matter a lot, and that's why I'm saying that the saving grace for us now is the US debt market. If we see stress test, it becomes more elevated in the point that Japan has to intervene, because look at Japanese market also. There's high signs of fragility. Yes, we have a new prime minister there. She's trying to make things work, but the concern right now is that the world seems to be in a bubble in the credit and that is where my major fear is. So coming back home, I think I did because on Mondays I do outlook on the Naira, and I said that the Naira is projected to go to 1,400, and other people were not understanding what I'm saying. Yes, the CBN has done a very good job in terms of the fact that we are coming from a place where our net reserves were $4 billion. Now we have about almost $35 billion. We're seeing the fact that our gross is almost at over $50 billion. That's really cool. And we're seeing the fact that at some point the CBN is trying to make the market, they're not really after a very strong naira, because they also want to be able to meet obligations easily. They know the mistakes of what the FX backlogs has caused, and they also don't want FPIs to exit the Nigerian market. So they're trying to make it balance. However, the situation in the Middle East have trickled panic, where rationality is not more the order of the day. So, when fear comes in, rationality has to take the back seat. And we're already seeing that in Dubai. So, my concern is that at some point, maybe the CBN might have to aggressively interfere when we are approaching the 1,500, which might be unlikely if Nigeria tries to sort this petrol price. Because, Kalu, I remember when you were exchanging, I saw the tweets where you're talking, people don't really understand that despite the fact that we produce crude oil, the federal government doesn't have a say on prices. The IOCs are the one that drill and sell. We only get a percentage. And unlike countries like Saudi Arabia, where they take a whole charge of production, we don't. We have shared agreement with the major players where they do all the technical and the administrative marketing. So we also need to look at it that Dangote refinery it provides security for local supplies, but it has little to do with pricing. So is the government going to be shocking? It's going to be shocking. And people are saying that because I saw a lot of funny people talking about the fact that government can strengthen the naira. Strengthening the naira is a form of subsidy, and it does not really have, because what you are dealing with now, you need to understand the cost we are going to come in. If we're going to strengthen the naira at the present condition at which you want Nigerians not to feel crude oil, it means you have to increase it by at least, you have to strengthen that by at least 30%. And it means that foreign reserves that we are excited about, in the next 3 months, we're going to go back to another big problem. So, Carl, the choices are tough, but I think for me, one of the lessons learned is that we need to be proactive about things like this.
Okay, let's sort of summarize for those that are listening and really are not finance people. So 2 weeks ago, the naira gained value. And the naira was gaining value because of many things. Number one was the foreign exchange management policy of the CBN. Mr. Cardoso has been very, very adept in refusing to spend and to support the imports. If you look, Mr. Cardoso's paid down the $7 billion outstanding revenues, and he has just said, I will not do intervention, central banking. He has just quietly grown the FX reserves. And I think he announced before the MPC meeting that the FX reserves net about 34, gross were nearing 50. The market responded, and the naira has risen in value. That's one part of it. Number two, the dollar has been weakened on purpose. It was always a rumor. If you go online to the finance blog, the rumor was always that Mr. Donald Trump wants the naira to be weak, sorry, the dollar to be weak, because that way is a tariff. If the dollar is weak, imports are expensive. So it's the same tariff he's doing. By making the dollar weak, he's imposing a tariff on Americans. He confirmed it on Air Force One when he said, no, he likes the dollar the way it is as it was falling. The dollar fell more. That was before the war. We had a stronger naira based on the fact of CBN's foreign exchange management and the weaker dollar on post from the US. The dollar naira went to gain strength. Let's put it away, gain strength. Now we've seen a reversal. The dollar has gained strength of flight to safety. More Americans are now buying dollar because crude oil is becoming more expensive. And crude oil is priced in dollar. So dollar is becoming more expensive. The naira is losing value. If I were to ask you, what is the key driver? Now, I heard you say naira is going to get to about 1,400, 1,500. Is the key driver of the naira the CBN or the Fed? Well, how would you put it in percentage terms? What is driving the naira? The US Fed or the Central Bank of Nigeria in percentage terms? I know both of them do, but how would you allocate that in percentage terms?
It's a very tough question.
I know, that's what I'm asking you.
I look at S&P Global Ratings position on Nigerian banks, and despite the fact that they gave us some outstanding commendation, they spoke about the fact that the Nigerian banking industry is sensitive because half of their debt position is denominated in the US dollar. That tells you the influence the US dollar has on the Nigerian economy and the US Fed. I don't take that away. And you need to understand that if the US increase rates a bit much higher, then the advantage Nigeria has is blood. So it's very tricky, to be honest with you, Kalu, but I'll tell you that Cardoso, yes, he has shown to be a brilliant CBN governor, but I don't think he's that Abatin thing everybody's talking about. I think he came at the right time and he's enjoying the right things, because if you compare with the past CBN governors, some of them were not that horrible. Some of them came at unfortunate times. Like, for example, we have Dangote Refinery. Nigeria is not paying for subsidy. NNPC is not reckless like the way they were before. There was a time NNPC was not permitting to the CBN. What do you expect the CBN governor to do? They started printing, and we had a president that was not monetary competent to understand these things. So we have to look at these things and be realistic that all these things are intertwined. However, I feel that we can't ignore the influence of the American economy on the Nigerian economy in all ramifications, even with Dangote Refinery. And that's why I was telling people that, see, you can't, UK has more remittance inflow than the United States. But in terms of businesses, in terms of links, the system, the financial system, the US is the alpha and omega, the SWIFT network and things like that. So I personally think that the Cardoso has been smart enough to follow but he hasn't tried to be ahead of the US curve, but you could see that he has taken note of what's happening around the globe, and which I give him thumbs up for, because at some point you expect that you look at where we are now, it shows you that demand has been market driven rather than having his own ideology in rule, and that's, for me, it deserves an A. However, I think that the only thing that can undo his achievements is how the fiscal side takes responsibility, particularly increased petrol prices, worrisome that energy inflation might also trickle into food products, and also make the populace irritated, because Carlo, this is 1,500 naira now. That will definitely cut the margins of a lot of companies. Okay. Yes, we posted healthy returns in the stock market. We are seeing the stock market at an all-time high. Investors have made 26 trillion naira. But the truth of the matter is that if you look at it among smaller companies, they are concerned. Consumption is not impressive. There are companies that make less than 30 million naira a year in the stock market, in terms of income. There are companies that their returns are quite not even up to $1 million. So it tells you that, the macro shows things are better, but on the macro, Nigerians are not happy, and Nigerians are hungry. Nigerians disposable income is weaker. The number of middle class living in Nigeria are not as much as
Okay,
we
let
have.
me,
So,
let me,
yeah.
let me ask you the magic question. If I had $100 today, I was holding it in my pocket. Should I change that $100 to Naira today, or should I hold it in my pocket?
So to be honest with you, Kalu, it's something I really was arguing with because my job, for example, I speak with the smartest people in Nigeria. I speak with people because I do a lot of reporting. I get the analysis, and I also my colleagues outside. So I try to see so that I don't print my judgment. But from what I've seen about Nigerian investment bankers, particularly those that are pretty those are in terms of making the analysis. Holding the Naira in the last 2-3 years have been very profitable, to be honest with you. I looked at my Naira position, particularly in money market. Look, for example, when I look at my position in Standard IDC money market, for example, and I look at my return in the European or the US Treasury, I did 5 times more in Nigeria than what I did with the same currency. Because at that time, so right now, what I'm trying to look at is how bad can it go? For me, I think with the coming of Dangote refinery, the fact that the president is also concentrating on his reforms, it's very hard for me to bet against the Naira. However, I am not too excited about it because when you look at it from a longer time frame, from a 5, 10, 20, 50, the dollar has always been king. But the thing for me is my holding capacity. I don't have the holding capacity of Tonemilu. I don't have the holding capacity of Dangote. So my holding capacity is swing to scalp position. So for me, I think I'm taking some profits off the table. But buying the dollar at 1,004 or changing my dollar to Naira, I don't think it's a smart thing for me right now. What I'd rather do right now is if I'm holding the $100, rather than me to change, if I want to change, I'd rather put the money in maybe a Dangote refinery IPO, or I'll put my money in a Stanbic money market where I get about 13 to 15% right now, rather than putting my money in the US Treasury where I get 4%. Because Carlo, you put $100,000 in the US Treasury market, you get 4%. That's $4,000. You put $100,000, you change it to Naira, at 1,400, you get 15%. At the end of the year, let's even factor in depreciation. Naira gets 1,005. You still get the same rate. So even at 1,005, you are getting the same rate with. So it depends on my time frame and it depends on my objective. If I'm looking at consolidating my wealth, I will definitely look at 2 markets. But if I'm being aggressive, I think I'll maintain the status quo.
Okay, fantastic, Olumide. Fantastic answer. Let's go into the last one. We have 3 guys I want to speak, but let me ask a real quick question on the stock market before we now go into the power and the food side I want to talk about. Stock market has not blinked. It has not blinked. The Nigerian stock market this week did about 2.15% return. Year to date, about 26% return year to date. It hasn't blinked. It hasn't. Other stock markets are falling. Nigerian stock market is still making money on insurance and all these stocks. Is the Nigerian market driven by hype or by fundamentals? I heard you mention something in passing, but why are other stock markets reacting negatively? I mean, very negative. And Nigerian stock market is just cruising like nothing's happening. What's going on? Is this hype, fundamentals, too much money chasing too few stocks? What's going on?
All of the above, Carl. All of the above. But I'll be honest with you. I think this is this is one space you've covered a lot in that sector in terms of stock market investing. And remember where we are coming from. I think when President Sulu came to power, the stock market was less than 40 trillion. Right now, it's 126 trillion. Investors has made the fastest 26 trillion in a year, and there are a lot of reasons to that. If you look at what's driving the stock market this year, if you look at what is driving, it's the heavyweights. When Tony Limlu bought into Zeblat, it was about 5,000. Now it's almost it has broken the 9,000 resistance. And Tony Limlu has an influence in the market, positioning in the market that also increased. Then the pension reforms, also made pension funds more aggressive towards the stock market. That also brought in inflows, Then FPIs, we saw the market, the observant, Bloomberg has been on. I remember at some point my tweets were on Bloomberg, For my tweets to be on Bloomberg, it shows the participation of Nigerian stocks, and I was so excited about that. So the optics around Nigerian stocks has increased, has been elevated, to be honest with you. It has been elevated, and that also brought in inflows. The hype, the hype you see on social media. Can you remember some years back when we talk about Nigerian stocks, you either being trolled, you either being insulted, or the people tell you that investing in Naira denominated assets is rubbish. Now I'm seeing so many comments. I'm seeing people guys talking about investing in stocks. I'm seeing people that earn dollars saying that increasing their investment in US and Nigerian stocks. So it has changed. But it has brought in bad habits. The bad habits, like you said, is the hype. People need to understand that the stock, despite the fact that relative to what it is in global stock markets, it has grown too fast, so it needs to cool off. For me, I think, like we look at MTN Nigeria, for example. I recall when I was in your space, I spoke about the only stock I was buying last year, and I told you why I was focused on MTN Nigeria. The fundamentals, you don't need to be an Albertine thing, I don't really spend so much time on EPS, all this book ratio, ROE, return on equity. I don't do that. That's why on Twitter I try to stay away from it, even though that's my major bread and butter in US stock market. The reason is not far-fetched. You see, our market is not fully efficient, and you need to understand that for these analyses are lagging. When you say analysis lagging, they are not real time. They are something that often takes time, or it has passed, So most of the time it has passed. So you need real time information to go ahead. So one of the things I tell people, the easiest things to look at in the stock market is follow Nigeria's richest men. When you saw the fact and look at reforms, the president, and Nigerian stock market is so slow to react. When NCC gave green light for MTN, you don't need to be an opportunity to know that MTN stock price at some point will elevate,
Wow.
And that was why at 150, 170, to me it was a no buy. Now it's almost going to, now it looks like it's going to get 1,000 naira. So you could see that it's not just hype, and 75% of that stock is owned by MTN Group. So only 25% is being battled between pension funds and Nigeria retail. So for me, I think that valuation is still very attractive.
Interesting.
When you look at Dangote Cement also, these are likely floated stocks. So the richest men control these stocks, Goa Food and things like that. So yes, it has increased their wealth, but the reality is that not many Nigerians are still exposed to the stock market. Can let me make you laugh? The stock market wealth has increased by 26 trillion. Dangote, Rabiu, Tony Milimu, pension funds, they have about 18 trillion of that money, at least, based on Bloomberg data.
18 out of 26.
Yeah, so it tells you how poor we are. That's why I said that, see, you need to understand that there's a difference between Twitter optics and real life optics. What you are seeing on Twitter, maybe people are fancied by Ferrari, Lamborghini. In reality, the Nigerian economy, many people are poor. Standard. So many Nigerians don't have a disposable income, $1 million. Yes, even in the world, it's not so much. But when you look at the percentage compared to what we are far behind. And that's why I said that a Warren Buffett $380 trillion billion dollars will buy the Nigerian stock market almost 4 times. And that also highlights the fact that even as the market has grown so fast, there are still so much opportunities. And that's why I'm just wishing that if the war settles down, the war in the Middle East, because that can have an effect on the stock market. If Dangote comes in, most likely we'll be talking about the 150 trillion naira mark, or $120 billion dollar valuation, and that also will increase optics. Look at Saudi Aramco. What Saudi Aramco is doing in Saudi Arabia? The stock market. I looked at Saudi stock market because of Saudi Aramco. That has increased the optics. A lot of foreign people are talking about Dangote because that's what many of them know. Many of them don't really know about GT. Many of them don't know Zenith. Many of them don't know many of these. And it's surprisingly, it's because these businesses don't have that global presence like they should. And I believe Dangote has the capacity to do that for the Nigerian stock market.
So I take it that for you, Dangote Refinery is going to be a buy when it comes to the market.
Yeah. So, Carl, to be honest with you, I'm going to buy regardless of any price. But the difference for me is if the price makes sense. If the price, because you see, I understand.
What does make sense mean?
If the intrinsic value is attractive, look at the valuation now.
Would you buy the 1,000 naira? 1,000 naira would you buy? 1,000 naira would you buy?
I don't think the stock will price at 1,000. I think it will price much higher, maybe 10, 15, 20,000. Because
sorry. Wait. How much did you say?
I think it will be priced like 17. It will be higher because look at the valuation of the company.
17,000 naira per stock.
I'm just giving. I'm not an investment banker.
No, I hear you. I'm just saying
Yes.
Wow.
But look at the valuation. Look at the valuation. Look at Zeblat when Zeblat came out. Look at when the likes of Nestle. Look at the valuation.
Wow.
It's hard to so many small stock, or make it well. It depends on how they do. But I know Dangote said he's going to list only 10%, and I know his target to be. So if he's going to list about 10%, that's 2 trillion naira. How many Nigerians? Okay, look at the money market, Kalu. The money market, GT has Stanbic has about 1.5 trillion as at the fourth quarter of 2025. The total money market fund size in Nigeria is about 3 trillion plus. It's unlikely most Nigerians will put 3 trillion in the stock market. So let us even say the best we get is 1 trillion. Where is the other 1 trillion going to come from? Okay, you say pension funds, but that will also come from the money market. So many people don't really have those possible income. That is going to, it might be reliant on the UK stock market. So my own bet is that 2 trillion for him to raise, he has to make it much attractive for institutional investors. And I don't think many retail will be able to buy it, to be honest with you. Many retail might not be able to buy it.
You are breaking too many people's hearts, Olumide. Many people have told me that they are saving 10,000, 20,000 for Dangote.
No, they should be realistic. They should be realistic. I don't know the pricing right now, to be honest with you. But if you think you are going to use your fintech app to buy a Dangote stock, I think somebody is lying to you. There are many stocks we bought. If you look at Nigerian stocks over the years, the most attractive stocks, you don't buy them easily. That's why I say people that, why do you think the richest people use Stanbic, Cardinal Stone, APT? You think they do it for a joke? When you order pricing, that's where you know your power in the game.
Okay.
The market, Nigerian market is not like the US stock market where it's all for the market to choose.
Wow.
The big boys are going to choose. Pension funds are going to choose.
Wow.
So the retail are likely going to get the scrap.
That's reality. Olumide is a bourgeois, and he has said that Dangote is not going to be for the proletarian. So I hear Olumide, I hear what you're saying, and I think it's going to be a shock to many people when the price share comes out. It's going to be very, very high, like you said. It's going to be an offer for sale, Abi. Offer for sale, not offer for subscription, I guess. Offer for sale, which means it's going to come to you. Okay, Olumide, we have 2 guys waiting here. Let's get their questions in. Then we'll go to part 2. We're going to come back to Dangote. I see a lot of DMs already on Dangote. Let me get Toluberry. Toluberry, thanks for waiting so long, right? I also to get through this. Toluberry, go ahead with your question. Toluberry, I've got Oluseye, then we'll...
Yeah. So, I don't really have a question. So let me know. I just want to put some things out. But if you want to take questions, I can wait. There's no problem.
You don't have a question?
No.
Okay, your hand was raised. Okay, Oluseye, go ahead. Oluseye.
Hey guys, hi Kalu, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you for asking.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, yes sir.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you Olumide for detailed analysis. So, my question is crude vis-a-vis the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. From my understanding, since crude oil prices are currently rising, Nigeria should be earning more dollars. As from my perspective, Nigeria should be earning more dollars from crude export, even if the volume sold remains the same or lower. In that case, why is Naira still losing value? That's question number 1. Then, as regards the upcoming Dangote IPO, the concern I have is that when we talk about Nigeria stock market being hyped, overhyped, and all that, I have the same concern based on the experience we have had during, I think, Atiku Obasanjo, when we bought most of the shares overpriced. So I'm thinking that there's high chance that Dangote's offer will be overpriced, such that we will be starting from those food broths, we'll be starting from deficit. And it's going to take another 10, 15 years before it starts regaining, because you have overbought it at the time. Let's say hypothetically, when they start your IPO, the actual price is 1 naira, and they will sell it for 15 naira. You see that it's going to take you several years for you to recover. So the question to you guys is, how will you identify the actual price if underpriced or overpriced? How are we able to know the actual price such that we don't, buy these things, in deficit and then now start struggling to, get our money back first and now start, making profit?
I think those are two fantastic questions. Let me try to answer. Let me also give his answer. On the first one, great question. You said Naira is going, dollar is going, oil price is going up. Why is Naira falling? So I think it's one thing you have to remember, that the Naira you have, the Naira is a derivative of Brent crude. So if Brent crude price and volume from Nigeria go up, all things being equal, the Naira should go up as well, because we're going to earn more dollars. So if we earn more dollar, then of course the Naira will then strengthen, right? That's the all things being equal scenario. But the reality is that the output from Nigeria for Brent crude has stayed flat or is anemic in growth. Well, I'm here. It's either between 1.4 million barrels per day to 1.6 million barrels per day. Our budget is about 1.7. OPEC quota is about 1.5. So we're barely getting out those volumes. So even if the price today goes to 1,000 naira per barrel, we're not getting the volumes up. So we're getting more money per volumes we're already doing, but we're not making that excess profit that should counter what the Americans are doing, which is a strong dollar now, right? So remember that the dollar is getting stronger. So for the Naira to become stronger, more people have got to bid for the Naira than for the dollar. So right now, we know actually, if you had $1 million in your possession today, would you hold that $1 million today, or would you convert to Naira and buy a money market and get a return? Because of fear, because it's a war and there's uncertainty, most people are going to hold the dollar. Not because it's going to make them more money, but because of the uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. If you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, it's better to hold dollar than to hold Naira. It has nothing to do with returns. That's why you see the dollar is gaining value, because most people are saying, I'll just wait. I won't convert. I won't invest. I'll just wait. That's that question of the dollar value. On this, your Dangote question, I asked a question on Twitter, and I don't even put what I was saying. You know Messi, right? Everybody on this space agrees that Messi is a generational player. He's the best player in the world. He can win World Cups. He can win Champions League. Everybody agrees. There is no debate if Messi is a good player. But if you are the Arsenal owner, would you buy Messi for 1 million naira? Of course you will. Would you buy him for $1 million? Of course you will. What for $100 million? Of course you will. But will you buy Messi for $1 billion or 1 billion euros? You're going to pause there. You will know Messi is good. You know Messi will win Arsenal a Champions League. You know that if Messi comes to Arsenal wins the Champions League. But would you buy a Champions League for 1 billion euros? That's the question. So replace Messi with Dangote. You know Dangote is going to make money for you in terms of dividends. You know it's going to be dividends in dollars. He's giving you that option. But would you buy that one earnings of dollars for, say, $100? That's the question you're asking, and we don't know. We've got to see the numbers out first, because we can estimate, we can look at Aramco, we can look at Mobil, we can look at the rest and say, okay, what have they made? And try to do an intrinsic valuation of Dangote to say, okay, we want to buy at a lower price, and then determine what our entry point will be. What I'll say is this: you are completely right. Whatever price Mr. Dangote comes out with is going to be an offer for sale at a price higher than the intrinsic value. Anybody buying Dangote via the IPO is going to pay more for the earnings today than tomorrow. The hope for everyone buying Dangote today is that something will happen down the line, that either Dangote will get more market share or Dangote will do more products, and that the price we are paying today will be cheap compared to the future earnings. That's the only mathematical explanation that people are going to have. And they have a point. Dangote today is petrochemical. I heard him say he wants to do detergent plant. He might come 5 years and do urea plant or whatever plant that will increase the revenue. So we don't know today what's going to do in 5 years' time. What we're buying today is a discounted price for the earnings we see today. What if Dangote buys NNPC, which is possible? Then everything changes. So that's why people are going to take that risk and pay more for the earnings today, because tomorrow they assume that the earnings will be higher today. Olumide, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so he asked interesting questions, but I don't know why he's so concerned about the exchange rate. So for me, like from an investment perspective, it's what you do with the naira that really makes a difference. I always tell people that you need to look at successful people, how their strategy works. If you look at Dangote, look at Rabi, look at Tony, look at Jimovia, their work is at an all-time high, despite the fact that naira is trading at about 1,400. What did they do? It was how they utilize and position themselves during the naira devaluation. Like I said, you are Nigerian, you are heavily exposed. So if you don't really have dollar obligations, I think you need to focus on yourself on increasing your productivity, much importantly. And that is why the stock market was one of the interesting ways for people to optimize such opportunity, because it's not just even investing and making more money. You understand how people really outgrow inflation and these devaluation concerns you have. Because for me, for example, like I said, if I have 100 million naira in the Nigerian money market right now, with even the way the dollar is doing, with the dollar is even the naira lost value in the past 1 week, I will not be too concerned, because looking at the spectrum of Cardoso, he has been consistent in the fact that price stability is a key, and he would likely not allow the naira to devalue as much as 1.718 with the FX in his custody, and the fact that he doesn't want to disrupt the Nigerian capital. So for me, like even looking at the low risk investment, the money market, it means the naira has to drop to 1.6 for me to lose my investment. I'm comparing for the same person at dollar naira. So I know you have businesses, you have you're doing something creative with your time. I think that has more compounding effect, because the problem is that this exchange rate thing has made a lot of people speculators rather than productive players, and the speculation is the problem where many of us are in, because like I said, if you are kept even the naira, even when the naira was, even if you are invested, even when the naira was 360, there was a time UB was 5 naira, UB is 40 naira. Zeblat in COVID was 500 naira in stock. Now Zeblat is 9,000 naira. How bad has the naira dropped? Even if you value all those things, you made more than 600%, even adjusting inflation and devaluation. So sometimes common sense, not much analysis, is the major aim of your strategy. The common sense is that, I'm in Nigeria, I earn in Nigeria, I need to upskill. Yes, nothing bad in having position in Western economies, but the truth of the matter is that you have to look at what works best for you. And that's why I said, like, take a clue from Nigerian churchmen. They knew that they are not experts in Bitcoin. They knew they are not experts in fintechs. They knew they are not experts in... What they did was they positioned themselves in critical sectors, knowing for population, and knowing that it was just a matter of time we'll get something right in the fiscal side. And look at them. Dangote's worth is $33 billion. Now, the next question, you talked about the concerns about the IPO. For me, like I said, I'm waiting to see the books. I'm more interested to see the books. I know that the valuation presently is 20 trillion. And he said it's going to increase between 5 to 10%. So I'm looking at about 2 to 3 trillion naira, right? And I'm looking at the fact that, okay, if he's going to do dual listing UK, and I'll definitely try to take, because I'm in diaspora, I will try to play smart like the way I did with Zebra. I'll try to see if I can make arbitrage opportunities, because don't forget that the UK, the acquisitions will be priced in the British pound and also the naira. If you are very smart, and particularly if you are in Nigeria, in the UK, for example, you could make decent amount of money, because at some point, the difference between the pricing between Zeblat and in the UK and in there was between 15 to 30% before it mirrored down. So there are a lot of opportunities in our market. Our market is very fully efficient. There are ways all you just need to do is tap in and make the best decision. let's leave this exchange rate parabolic side, because for me we can't control it truly. Like what can you say? Nobody expected the war to come in the future. The best. If you are a rich man, if you are very liquid, you will not be bothered because you can just keep $1 million in your US Treasury account or in the Bank of America or Goldman Sachs, where it will just give you 3, 4, 5%. But you don't have that facility. You are trying to change 100,000 naira to dollars, or you're trying to change 500,000. What is the compounding effect of that? Rather than making that opportunity or acquiring skills that will make you earn 5 million naira in the next 3 to 5 years. That's how we should be thinking, not just putting money in the bank and looking for FX differentials.
Okay, well said. Olushe, your hand is up. Are you okay? I want to move on to Explorer. Are you okay, Olushe?
Hello, Kalu.
Fantastic.
I think I spoke.
Yeah, Olushe, Olushe, your hand is up. You're okay, right? We can move on to Explorer. Okay, fantastic.
Thank you, Olumide. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for your analysis. So I think Olumide mentioned that why am I concerned about the Naira? Primarily because I don't earn locally, so I believe in the Nigerian economy, in the growth.
Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Olushola, go ahead. Olushola, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so primarily because I believe in... Thank you. So primarily because I believe in Nigerian economy and potential growth. And so I'm concerned that since I'm concerned that what's the reason why it's losing value, or does it have artificial growth before now? That's why I asked question about that growth.
If you're earning in forex, you have a huge advantage on the share. If you're earning in forex, you have a huge advantage because you're not worried about the exchange risk. I think the risk is more for folks that earn in naira that have to then go to a higher currency, i.e., the forex currency. That's what we're exposed because we are earning in a currency that if it goes south, we're in trouble. If I earn $1, I still earn $1. I still earn $1, right? So even if whatever happens, it's still $1. But in naira, it's not a naira tomorrow. So I think you have a bit of a cushion in that you are already earning a convertible currency, unlike the naira. So you are quote unquote kind of better than the folks that are going to earn in dollars. And I heard Olumide say something. I hope guys picked on that if you buy the same stock offshore in a foreign currency, you have an arbitrage advantage than buying the same stock locally in naira currency. I hope you guys picked up on that. It's the same thing that happened with New Gold ETF. Same thing happened with Seplat. Even once you buy that same stock abroad in a foreign currency, you open yourself up to a second line of revenues. Is going to be your arbitrage opportunity. Explorer, go ahead, sir. Explorer, go to the phone. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening.
Go for it, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Kalu.
How are you, sir?
Good evening, is it Olumide and the rest? Okay. Hello, can someone hear me? I don't know if I'm talking.
We can hear you, sir. Go ahead.
Hello?
I can hear you. Go ahead. Maybe he has issues with his audio. Olumide, let me.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me move it. Olumide, so the next thing I wanted to ask you, Olumide, was to go now into the African edition of the space, right? To say, I've got Omokaro. Omokaro, I'll come to you. I've got to talk about the impact of what's happening in the Gulf, right, to Africa in terms of, say, power and food. If you know, because dollar has gone up, energy prices have gone up, Africa imports a ton of food and a ton of energy. What do you think happens? Let's start from, say, Africa. And I have some data points here I can show you that are just crazy stuff. When I tried to research this online, there's a data point I saw here where it talked about that farmers in Africa, 40 to 60% of farmers in Africa spend more on food than they earn from selling agricultural produce. Let me say it again. 40 to 60% of smallholder farmers in Africa buy staple foods. So they spend more on food than they earn from selling agricultural produce. So let me know, what do you think is going to be the effects of this prolonged war on the economies in Africa and of course Nigeria, if you just take into account the fact that the Africans are net importers of food and energy? What's your take really? And how do you think we should play this in terms of investing?
It's one of the pains. One of the pains I have, particularly among our elites, is we act like we are immune to certain things, and maybe it's out of ego or the fact that we see ourselves as Jews, and it's totally unfortunate because where I am particularly, I already saw the French government, I saw the German government, I've seen the Americans also looking at the economic thinkers, bringing out things to the press. Because for me, one of the things I've seen our critical thinkers do is to focus more on the social aspects of the economy or the political side rather than the economic side. Look at the petrol thing now we are talking about. At the bomb sheet, Bloomberg had already created a form where experts had already been complaining that, see, we really need to make things work for our citizens in different countries. Now, coming back home, I knew that my countrymen, that we don't trust subsidy, that we're coming from a place where subsidy will be in expenses. But you need to understand that there's a reason why Saudi Arabia spends $200 billion per annum on subsidy. Yes, it could be implicit, explicit, that's the economic term. But the truth of the matter is that how many Nigerians can survive on this rate? Also, look at food you mentioned about. If you look at Dubai, for example, the UAE, for example, that market has been distorted. Now, fresh food, according to different media reports, will be out in 10 days. That will have a trickle. That already, the shipping has been distorted. Countries will now start prioritizing. And we need to be honest with ourselves. In terms of global economy, Africa is ranked least in priority. In terms of quality, we are ranked least. People don't take us like the way we think people take us, and that's because we are one of the poorest nations in terms of output. The world is governed by how much you make, what you bring to the table. And I think policymakers need to start thinking inwardly on the mistakes. First, we did not save. We don't have strategic reserves where we can push things like with the Americans or Europeans. Secondly, we have internal problems. Political disunity has really amplified a lot of problems. Insecurity, banditry, farmers being killed like chickens. That has affected us at some point, despite the fact that we've seen food inflation trickling down. One of the Achilles of this present administration, President Tinubu's administration, is investment in agriculture. We have to be honest. Yes, you can give him credit for currency reforms, energy reforms, but I have not seen any positivity in the nation's most important sector, agriculture. This is where most people work. Let's forget this Lagos lifestyle. Most people work in the agricultural based sector. At some point, the most valuable listed company was an agro company, Boa Foods. So, for me, there's nothing I feel like we should brace for the pain. We are going to, Iran has made sure that the cane will touch everybody. What we should be doing now is we should ensure it doesn't touch our neck. Because, when somebody beats on the neck, it's very painful. We should receive it on the buttocks. But the fact that we're not going to receive anything, I think that discussion has passed. We are going to receive the pain. It's going to come. The only miracle that can come in is maybe something happens tomorrow and Iran is there, the United States call off everything, they accept the spiritual leader of Iran, and but still at that, we're still going to feel the pain. Because now look at the market. The market is going to open a few hours time. Look at the gap that you see in the crude oil market. Yes, we are excited about the fact that crude oil prices are going to hit $100. But the reality is that Nigeria's crude oil production, many of them is tied to debt. When it now is starting to drag on, we've forgotten that we use our crude oil production to borrow money. We've forgotten that. And we've also forgotten that the margins we get from the margins from Nigerian crude is not as high as what you see in Saudi Arabia, Iran, or other countries, because the security infrastructure costs and other problems facing the oil sector.
So let me, if I might, I don't want to interrupt you, but just to follow you right. So you are saying that, and again, it's true that Nigeria has the NNPC has sold crude oil in advance, collected money yesterday to deliver crude oil tomorrow. So in effect, if this oil price has gone up, right, we are still obligated to deliver crude oil to these guys that we've collected their debt in advance.
Yeah, but we'll get some gap. Yeah, I think the way the agreement works, we'll still get, the price. There's a way they did it where we'll still get some. But I'm saying that we shouldn't be excited like it looks like Gulf War during Babangida last time where government workers were applying 504 like. Can you remember that time now where almost every government workers was using the new 504?
They gave them brand new 504, but this time they've increased their salary this time.
We are going to receive the cane on the neck because what is coming, people don't understand what Iran is doing. What is coming? Because look at just this weekend I was reading Bloomberg and I saw three things that made me scared. First, Kuwait said that they cannot meet their contract. Qatar stops LNG. Qatar that the world regards as a safe option. Now Iran said that no, they are not even interested in negotiation. So what Iran is trying to do is like they're trying to make not even because they know that they can't match the United States head on head. They know they're not a stupid country. They know they can't match the United States head on head. But they are trying to create that effect where when people say Iran and Israel don't want to fight, in fact, Nigerians will be front or other countries say, no, with what we have gone through, this thing, you guys should need to. Because, see, we were talking about AI before this conversation, where AI disruption, people are losing jobs. Do you know how many immigrants, like, I did a report on job loss in the immigrant space for particular African countries. It's alarming. The reason why people are not talking about it is because the focus is less on Africa. Do you know how many Africans are losing jobs? Africans in Europe that are losing jobs right now to AI. AI is taking jobs like hot knife through butter. So now the Middle East crisis is being elevated. It's more of chaos. Okay. So I think we need to start looking at the government really needs to learn that from now on we need to yes, the CBN has saved a lot of money, but we don't have strategic reserves. How are we going to absorb the shock?
All right. And again, I shared this chart for Nigeria, specifically for the food, And Nigeria is importing, first 9 months last year, this is last year, before we even did the free food import, right? 2.54 trillion was what Nigeria spent to import food in the first 9 months of 2025, right? Overall food, if you now add food and beverage, your Moe Chandon and everything, that figure goes up to 5.27 trillion. So food import is up in Nigeria, 12% up year on year, 5.27 trillion. Not the whole year, only 9 months. Food alone. So you want to ask yourself, how much did Nigeria earn from crude oil? How much are we spending on food alone? Then if you look at the food figures they are quoting about 10 billion is what Nigeria spends annually on food imports. 10 billion. So why are we bringing this up with energy and Iran war? Because Iran and the war is in the Middle East is about energy, crude oil, gas. Crude oil and gas generates your fertilizer. So both food, both fertilizer are going to be affected when there's a stoppage of this free flow of energy across the world. Already, I saw a report, Australia has said they're going to slow down on exports of food. You see, China has asked exporters, no more exports of diesel, no more exports of refined PMS. It's going to go across the world, and Nigeria and Africa are net importers of food and fertilizer. We're going back to what happened during COVID, where India stopped exports of rice because they want to protect their local economy first. And this is the effect that's going to happen on Africa. When we don't get cheap food, it's going to cause that inflation. So what I was taking to us to tell us what would happen. If you look at the last 2 years, emerging stock markets, of which Nigeria, Kenya, Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt are among, we are beating the US stock market. Now we are seeing projections that if inflation goes up in Africa, it would affect the stock markets in Africa. So is that going to be a net negative of this fall? And how should we sort of start to have buffers towards this fall in the stock market and all?
Yeah, but to be honest with you, there are certain stocks I'm not selling in Nigeria, not because of I'm being so optimistic. The Nigerian stock market has overdone itself. We're coming from a place of 40 trillion, and the stock is 126 trillion. That's 3x in less than 3 years. The total stock market. Now, Dangote has not even come in on board. NNPC is supposed to come in. So I think for those that, yes, it's healthy. The market at some point will go back. But we have left that 2008 where the market lost because it will only take, there's nothing that is absolute or there's nothing that is impossible. But it will take some satanic forces that serious for the stock market to go back below 40 trillion. It's not possible, Carl. Look at where we're coming from. The integrity of the foreign exchange market has been amplified. The currency has been devalued. Investors' confidence has come on board. So yes, we might have problems like the world with general economy. At worst case scenario, with Dangote refinery, I don't see us going below 60 trillion. Even if that happens, I think Nigerians have seen the opportunities in the market that the awareness has grown. Pension funds are more aggressive. So funds are being trickled in because you need to look at the triggers that made Nigerian stock market where it is today. Are they missing? No. The government is even encouraging more. So I think for people that really want to come into the market, I think they should wait for market correction because a lot of people now say one stock I should buy. Now they now look like stock market expand. I think for me, what lessons you need to understand is that the richest people were successful because they went in when the noise was quiet. They went in when many people didn't really believe in the strategy and it paid them. People that bought in the black market and people that put their money in dollar and everything, it's left for you to judge. Let the data judge. For me, I think that is where you should be thinking next. The opportunities next. Dangote refinery, new business release. We have beautiful companies, Piggyverse, Paystack. These companies at some point will come up. They're going to come. So lessons are like you have to take opportunities, even when people don't talk about it. You have to do the homework. The homework is not on social media. The homework is not on social media. The homework is your personal self. You have to work with your investment bank, your stock broker. You have to read newsletters. You have to spend time with financial information because there's so much misinformation. Just imagine you bought MTN last year. Just imagine you put all your savings. Just imagine you bought MTN last year. You have 5x in 1 year. 5x in 1 year. You put 10 million, you have 50 million naira. You can take your spouse to Qatar or even with it to buy a ticket that's at $1,000 or $2,000. You can buy tickets. Yeah. So I think it's the lessons that we should be more concerned about. How they position themselves. Yeah.
Right. So guys, if you want to ask your question, Lumde is here. Just request to speak and I'll add you and you can ask your question. But Lumde, I have a question for you again. Someone challenged me again on this Nigerian stock market when I asked you if it's hype or if it's really fundamentals. I don't know if we should call the stock's name here. I don't know if we should call the company's name. But the second best performing company in Nigeria for 2025 was a real estate bank based in Abuja. The second best performing stock, about nearly 1,000% performance, right? That company now, the stock has been delisted first quarter 2026. So the point I'm making is this: if we just went by this 50%, the market did about 50%, is doing better in the US market. But I doubt, unless you bring up Enron, I doubt you can bring up any country where a stock was the second best performer, and in the next 3 months the company got delisted from Nigerian Stock Exchange. I doubt you can find it.
Yes, but Carl, let's be honest with ourselves. I think, that's where this is the problem I have with critics. This problem I have with critics. I don't even work in the Nigerian stock market. Most of my workings are overseas, But one of the things I tell Nigerians is that the easiest place is where you are from to build wealth because it's cheap. To build wealth in the US stock market is not for the weak. It's not for the weak. Now, you look at Nigerian stock market. Why is he talking about that? Yes, there's so many infections. Nigeria will always be Nigeria, no doubt about that. But the truth of the matter is that the best managed companies are in the Nigerian stock market. Why is he not talking about MTN? Why is he not talking about GT? Why is he not talking about UP? Why is he not talking about... Because most of these stock companies are audited by reputable... At least you know what they call the Big Four. They are reputable accountants that audit these things. And they go through processes. You want to compare it with companies that are managed by people that spend their money on parties and hotels, private companies. So you have to be honest with yourself. The best managed companies are in the public space. Yes, we don't have perfection, but it's rare when you look at the NGX 30. It's rare to see companies that are poorly managed. Check from Wema Bank to Fidelity. Look at those people behind those. These people are not. Some of them, they are not cheap. It's just because many of these professionals are not influencers or hype men, or they have to brag their credentials. These people are been tested.
Olumide, I hear you.
Making that assumption of a company that's valuation is less than $10 million. It's in a market that has more than $90 billion valuation. I think it's more of an exaggeration.
Okay, Olumide, and the funny thing about this company is that let me get the exact month. I'll get this. In June of 2025, this company's auditors came out and said that they doubt the company can continue as a going concern. So the auditors of the company came out in June 2025 and said this company cannot continue as a going concern. This was a bank. And still Nigerian investors invested more in this bank and took this bank to second best performer, the Nigerian Stock Exchange. This bank contributes to Nigeria getting the 50% return year on year. So again, it's that question of who are we blaming here? Are we blaming the investors that do not do their due diligence? Do we blame the bank that, even though the auditor's report has said it was not a going concern, was still out there in the market? Do we blame the stock exchange and the SEC for allowing the bank that the auditors have said was not a going concern to keep on being listed and to contribute to the growth of the market? This is the point I'm raising that.
All of the above.
Okay.
All of the above. Because for me, I will not invest in that that kind of asset.
Okay.
I will not. It doesn't meet my investment criteria.
Okay.
But the security, the NGX and SEC, they are already being proactive. Especially this administration, you've seen the fact that they brought out new strategies of protecting investors. There was a time NGX even brought out a disclaimer warning investors that you need to speak with people that are licensed. And that's why I tell people that even financial professionals are not, they don't have that. If any financial professional that is giving you recommendations talk to buy on social media is a scammer or a criminal, because by law it's illegal. Yes, that's the truth. It's illegal. That's the truth. It's illegal. You could give education analysis, you could speak on, but you are not. But the Nigerian law do not give exemptions. They do not even say the president can give stock recommendation. No, there's no exception. You need to have some form of approval, and that's why even for me in the space, when I make people understand and say I'm giving this is not an investment advice. Yes, I work in the space, but I don't have that approval or mandate. In America, it's even much more stricter. So why are we not honest with ourselves? When you are looking at, you are following people that say this thing is illegal, this thing is illegal, and you expect you get something legal out of it, then it's either you also are not well informed, you don't know your limit, or you refuse to understand that you need to meet people in the. There's nothing bad listening to social media. There's nothing bad listening to this conversation. But it shouldn't be your final. It shouldn't be your final. You need to look at people that that's what they do. Your investment bankers or stock brokerage firms. Oh, sorry, I had this space, this stock. Okay, can you give me those ones? Will now tell you, okay, this based on this, based on this. Then you will now use your own brain to decide. Okay, based on the information I have, what do you think I should do? And you now decide, okay, I'm buying and investing. But solely depending on an entity that does not have the decision to give you that service, I think it's not a smart thing to do.
Understood. I had two guys waiting here. They both dropped out. Internet is kind of funny today. my YouTube didn't work. So let me just go straight to the DMs. Olumide, I'll just give you a few questions that are coming from DM. Someone said, Olumide, just to be clear, are you saying that the per share for Dangote is going to be like in the 17,000 mark? Someone is asking that question about it. Just want to clarify real quick, Olumide.
That's why I didn't want to give you a number. That's part of Nigeria. You don't even know. Can you see problem? I'm not, because I'm not even an investment bank, and I don't even know. I'm just giving look. I'm looking at based on historical data. The stock will definitely not be so easy for retail to get. If you think you're going to use your fintech app to get a lot of bank, I'm not. From what I'm seeing, I'm looking at the past. I'm looking at. So
this is an IPO, right? This is going to be an initial public offer.
I don't even know, Carlo. I don't.
But it's to be an IPO. It's your first time to. It's going to be an IPO. So you can't buy it from apps. You have to basically go to your bank, fill out that form.
I said I don't have the but Carlo, you see. One thing I've learned about the Nigerian investment space is that you look at things traditionally, and sometimes it might not go the way there are times like that I've been on. So that's why I don't want to give an absolute.
Okay.
Please don't quote the number. I'm just giving an illustration. That's why I don't like giving stocks that I own and this thing in public, because someone will say because this guy bought the stock, you own this stock. No, it doesn't work like that.
Okay.
There's a reason why I bought the stock.
Okay.
So the price. My own example is just that I feel like if you look at the way Dangote price cement, if you look at the way Zeblat position themselves into the market, I'm just looking at the historicals that it's very likely that they do the position in such a way that it will be attractive to institutional and deep pockets. If you look at Netflix, so I don't see them listing like the way they will list a Weber Bank stock or something like that. That's my own. But I might be wrong. I might be wrong.
Gotcha. Let's get Tunde. Tunde is here. Has a question, I suppose. Tunde, how are you? Tunde, what's up? Hi, Tunde. You've got the mic. Did you have a question, or I go back to my DMs? Okay. Olumide, before Tunde asks a question, someone is asking a question again. Hi, does the high oil prices translate to higher revenues for Nigerian oil and gas companies? I see that the market did about 60% for energy sector. Will high oil prices mean that Nigerian marketing companies would make more money? Olumide, is there a correlation between high oil prices and the local retail guys making higher revenues? Is it a buy? What's your take, Olumide?
You're talking about downstream.
Yeah, downstream. Correct.
Downstream, it's trickish, but it's usually it usually depends on their services generally. But if it's on the upstream, yes, I'll say a lot. You look at Saudi Aramco, the stock is up. The highest levels is 2023 or 2000. I can't the number at a very open at the high level, because usually the margins, and that's why I was saying that Toloni's bet on Zeblat was strategic and was lucky, because when he bought Zeblat, he didn't know, when he bought a 50% stake in Zeblat, he didn't know that there was going to be war. He could have forecasted, but he didn't know the time would be so soon. Now look at the stock. The stock has almost doubled this year. The stock opened when he bought it was about 5,000 plus. Now it's almost going to 10,000, 9,000 naira something. So yeah, the upstream definitely, but the downstream, the margins are not as high as what you see in the upstream side. It's very sensitive, and that is why if you look at the companies like Corner, look at Etana, they have not done as well as Aradel and Zeblat. Investors are fully aware that the margins, of those ones are much more. So investors had already made their judgment already. So yeah. I think the upstream has been the bride in the stock market.
So just to be clear, the upstream guys benefit from the high margins, from the high oil price.
A lot. But why do you think Oado was on full bid this week? Why do you think Oado was on? You just need to understand that when there's the differential price, yes, it's the margins. The margin, it boosts their margins.
Yeah.
It's not this brainer. It boosts their margins. I expect to see ExxonMobil, Chevron, Shell, bringing out blast results, in next quarter, in for their first quarter. I'm not surprised if their first quarter they'll make in big shares, but I'm not going to be surprised. The only thing is just that it doesn't benefit the larger economy in the long term. That's why even America is worried, despite the fact that they own Exxon, they own Chevron, and they're worried that this will definitely affect them.
Gotcha. Let's go to Oxley Tech. Oxley, hi, how you doing?
Yeah, Carlo, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you, sir.
Okay, so
I'm not hearing Mr. Oxley.
I think looking at the whole situation is. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Your network is bad.
Carlo.
You are kind of breaky, but I can hear you. Go ahead if you can. I'll try to listen in.
Okay, so what I'm saying is a chicken and egg situation, which is it looks like the guys in the upstream are smiling to the banks because their cost of production did not change or hasn't changed. But what has changed significantly is margin, right? But I think the government, the federal government would, if the revenue will increase, what comes to the coffers of the federal government will increase, but the larger economy would not benefit from it. Already in the streets of Nigeria, and I think in the streets of Lagos, fuel is over 1,100 or 1,002. And it looks like, from what I'm hearing, long queues has returned to the streets of Lagos. And once queue returns in Lagos, it becomes a problem. So
are there queues in Lagos?
Yes, we have a local refinery. Yes, I'm hearing that queues are beginning to return.
No, but have you seen any?
Now
who can confirm that? Can anybody confirm that there are queues in Lagos? I don't think there. I've not seen queues. So, can anyone confirm there are queues?
There seem to be queues. That's what I'm hearing. So the point I'm making is this: the fuel for the common man will almost be unreachable, because if Dangote in the last 1 week has increased price maybe once or twice, and the NNPC affiliated filling stations are also increasing their prices. So fuel is currently over 1,000, and it's going to blow up everywhere in terms of inflation. So I think the increase in crude oil, which is WTI and Brent crude and all of that, is good for the people in the upstream, but I don't see how it benefits the larger economy, because there's going to be inflation. Dangote. And I don't then looking at what is in it for Nigeria. I'm not sure whether this is the time Nigeria needs to pump more crude. Pump.
Huh. Well,
Nigeria is not doing that.
There's nothing to pump that Nigeria does not. Yeah.
Sorry.
More.
I think he highlighted all the things we said earlier. But when he said we need to pump, people need to look at it that crude oil is not like the well at our house or water well where it doesn't, it's not a straightforward process, and we are suffering from the effect of underinvestment. If you look at the NPS data, there were many years Nigeria did not invest a single dollar in the oil industry. So for what the president is trying to do now, you could see that he has brought in reforms and regulations to just attract investment. And these things are not certain. It takes time. For us to get to 2 million barrels now, we need to be consistently investing in that sector. It will take many months, to be honest with you. Anybody that says that we'll get 2 million barrels a year is far from the truth, So,
yes, Olumide, that's what I'm saying. How I wish that the government can pump more. They can't, because they haven't done they haven't done what they were supposed to do for so many years. This period would have been beneficial to us if we were doing 2 million per barrel.
Yeah.
But we are still hovering around 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. So I don't see how we can cash out. This is a cash out time, but it doesn't seem like Nigeria is going to cash out from this.
And Dangote is literally going to suffer because Dangote is being suffocated now in terms of crude supply. And Nigeria is not, NNPC is not giving him as much. Nigerian government is not giving him as much. So where is he going to get the net crude? Where is he going to get the crude to be able to refine and sell? So it's a complicated situation. We might not benefit so much from this situation. We might not benefit so much. I don't see that because we weren't prepared for a day like this. We are not prepared as a country.
And I think let me rephrase you, because I think we're actually prepared for a day like this, but the humans in Nigeria refuse to take advantage of the should we say the situation. We have the excess crude account, we have the benchmark prices, we have the NNPC, we have the Dangote refinery, we have the IOCs, we have all the elements in Nigeria that was there for us to have increased output from 1.5 to even 2 million barrels a day. Imagine if we are doing 2 million barrels a day today, excess crude account will be in the billions. Nigeria would have had excess funds available to even pay down the euro bonds, which are our biggest problem to those euro bonds that we have that are very, very costly. Now we've lost. This war will be this war can last a month. I don't think this war can last a month. So if this war ends after a month, then oil prices fall back to 60. What have we gained?
What of the war? You said this war can't last a month.
I don't think it lasts a month. Yeah.
Okay. But me, I'm not a geopolitical expert, and for me, I don't know the future. But I didn't see it going out of hand like this. Have you ever, when last have you seen the most important oil routes being disrupted this way? When last?
I think it has happened. Even the Houthis did it, right? But
not this magnitude.
Limited, to be honest, if you look at the military, it's not that the Iranians have stopped the oil flow of oil. Tankers are still passing. What's happened is that the insurance company in London said no more insurance. It's not the Iranians that have stopped it. It's the UK guys, the lack of insurance. That's why Mr. Trump came out last week and said that the US government is going to insure all the tankers passing through. And the US Energy Secretary said tankers have passed through yesterday and there was no issue. I think what they are looking for now, if you notice yesterday, again, just to go into if you notice yesterday, they started to bomb the southern parts. They started to bomb the oil storage facilities. I think they are clearing the missiles from the coast. Then they're going to maybe start to do satellites there and allow the ships to pass through. Because remember, Olim, the last point, China is the most affected from the Straits of Hormuz being closed. So China is telling Iran, we will not support you if you close the strait. We need oil too. So Iran has got to allow oil to pass through. There's no way around it.
I'm speaking from the market perspective. President Trump, for the first time in many months, failed to calm the market. I think when the oil market opens on Monday, you see what I'm saying. I'm not against your bias, but the market now is ignoring President Trump. The oil traders are ignoring President Trump. His words are even amplifying long positions. Because if what you said really materialized, I don't see why we should have an opening gap of more than $15 on Monday.
I think the issue is that
what I feel Iran is doing and Iran has achieved is that what I read on Bloomberg on this evening was that Kuwait has stopped production, and all the experts will tell you that when it comes to this product, it's not like tap. It takes time for you to revamp production. When you switch off, it's not like you can just open it like remote or like go and switch it on. Now, what they've done successfully is that they've disrupted the energy capital, LNG, and they disrupted that. Now, when I opened on market, because I placed positions on the crude oil market, Carlo, I remember my friends were teasing me on Wednesday last week. When the war started on Saturday, I said I was going to go long on petrol, on crude oil. And the only regret I had was that I didn't put so much money. I put few thousands. And when the market corrected, because on Monday, Tuesday, everybody said, the crude oil was falling. It was supposed to go up, but crude oil was going like it was going go back to $60. I bought more because I wanted to cover my loss. I bought more. Now look at where the market is right now. In just a week, crude oil prices has risen by more than a third. Yes, Carlo, I don't dispute your arguments, but with me, I feel that the wars has not even started, except the Iranians, because what the Iranians are doing, from my own perspective, is simple. Create so much damage in the global economy that people will see US. Look at what happened in Norway embassy, the US embassy in Norway. Look at what's happening. The people are becoming agitated that the wars that this is an unnecessary war for us. So the Iranians, that's what they're passing across, that they want the world to feel the pain, that they're not going to go down alone. They want people to feel the pain. And that's why I said that the pain will reach everybody. It's just
Olumide, nothing you have said was unknown before the war. Everyone, the whole world knew that Iran had missiles and Iran would threaten oil supplies. There's nothing you are saying today that the markets did not price in. That's why when we were amassing the Armada, oil went from 60 to 70 before a bullet was shot, to 70 before anything happened. What is happening today in terms of the military war? What's happening today? Iran's ballistic missiles count has fallen. So the US and Israel have reduced Iran's ability to launch ballistic missiles. What we're seeing today are drones. The drones have proven very, very hard to stop in Ukraine and in Middle East. But the problem with Iran is that if they keep on firing drones at their neighbors, at their desalination plants, at their oil refineries, at hotels, they are firing drones at hotels. Eventually, what will happen? The US is looking for a pretext to get the whole Middle East, which are Arabs, to come against the Persians. Once they get that coalition that, listen, we're all going to face Iran, they will base air power in Saudi, in Bahrain, shorter distances. And they will start to really now go carpet bombing of all those drones and all that. This war can't last a month. Remember, Iran's victory is that they survive at the end of the war. US victory that they stop the missiles and the uranium out of Iran. 1 month of this can't go on for either party. US can wait. Iran is doing Taliban strategy, will wait out the US. But the US is not looking for regime change. What I mean regime change, they're looking to invade Iran. What they want is to take away the capacity of Iran to restart its own missiles and all that. So I don't see it lasting more than a month. Again, they don't have the support of the... Look at now, the US has allowed Russia to sell crude oil to India. So they've removed... Russia is now happy, right? They've removed Russia. Okay, supply to India, they are gone. China is now alone and exposed. They have no crude oil.
Yeah, but with all this you said, if it was really priced, and that's my own... I'm talking from a market perspective. If all this was really priced, crude oil should not have moved to 90-something barrels. We should not be having 100-something barrels. What the world is looking at right now is the fact that, there's distortion in the market. And the US now, for example, you see, Russia, the Russia oil is available now. But that has not stopped energy. US is rich. US can survive without Iran's pressure because they have large amount, but that's not the same for Europe. Gas prices has increased by more than half in Europe. In UK, you're going to see what's going to happen in UK next month. That is why France is flying their fighters jet on Dubai, because the effect is already even in Europe. I'm telling you how the market is reacting so fast. So yes, you can say that Dubai and the Iranians are playing financial war. The cost of a drone, they can produce at least 500 drones a month.
Yeah, but in the end,
it costs millions of dollars to build a Patriot or Tomahawk missile.
They can't survive this. So
I'm not saying the argument is not about surviving. They are hardliners. They removed a spiritual leader that said that made a fatwa against nuclear weapons, at least officially. He said no. Now the hardliners are in control. Do you see what the Iranian president apologized that no more attack on Gulf regions?
And he was forced to retract it. Yes, I'm just telling you, that's what I'm telling you, that see,
even Donald Trump is even out of options. He said that he doesn't even know the people he will speak to. That's why I'm saying that the market is already reacting to the fact that he grew. You see, I felt that he didn't listen to his military planners. He thought what he achieved in Venezuela was going to be so easy. Iran is not an easy meat. That's why I keep telling to people that, see, yes, America is the most powerful nation in the world, but there are certain things that are real. Iran is not a push nobody. This is a country of 2,500 years old. You understand? One of the oldest countries. America is just about 250 years old. So ignore the status quo. Look at the historicals. Look at the people's ideologies. Look at the hardliners. Look at their moderate. It's going to be a very tough thing. So for me, I think saying the war will be not up to 6 months. Yes, up to a month is possible. But those guys, the way I'm seeing, they can fight the war till September.
Yeah, but again, look at let's bring it to today. You say Iran is a 2,500-year-old civilization. You are right, but they are bombing your country, and the Iranians are laughing. The Iranian youth are supporting the bombings because before the bombings, the government was killing them. That's number one. Number two, they made some big mistakes. They bombed Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan has now said they want to invade. They don't have to invade all of Iran. They have Azaris that are in Iran. They can go in and collaborate with them. Same with the Kurds. They will go in and collaborate with Iranian Kurds. So what they are doing, they are hiding it inside bunkers and launching drones. There is no ground offensive, so they can just afford to keep their enemy underground, launch drones, and they are fine, and issue Twitter statements. When they start to get invasion of their countries, 90% of the Iranian oil is exported via an island. 90% via one island. Is it Kargil Island or whatever they call it? US is going to invade that island very, very soon. It's not in Iran. It's just off Iran. There's no army there. So the US will send army folks there and take over that island. Then what will Iran have to do? Will they launch drones against their own oil infrastructure? So it can't last for a week because every day, you know that there's one James Bond movie where the guy caught James Bond and was torturing him by kicking his balls. And the guy was saying, torture doesn't work because people can outlast torture. But when I torture in a place that if the longer you wait, you are killing yourself, you talk. So when he was hitting his balls, you have to talk. They've got these guys by the shorts and curly. Everyone knew this will happen on Olympic. Everyone knew that Iran will bomb the West, Iran will close the straits. Everybody knew this. Everyone knew. The fact is that, who didn't know that they will close the Strait of Hormuz? Everybody knew this.
People did not even listen to.
Let's not take over the whole space. I think we're right on both of our.
Look at the president's charter. No, I just want to summarize this. If you look at the president's charter, they are even surprised that Iran attacked their neighbors. And Iran has said this privately that if bombs hit, they're going to attack. They said it. For me, my closing remark is that it's easy to analyze wars. It's easy to bring out, but we don't know the end. We don't know the end. And that is why me, from a market perspective, I tell people that expect the wars. Expect the wars. I don't know what will happen on Monday. The only person that can end the war is President Trump, in my own opinion. The Iranians are stubborn. They will not want to look. The hardliners are in control. Except they wipe out the whole hardliners, which I feel that is almost impossible.
I think they are baiting them. I think this war is to bait them into attacking the Arab Gulf states, which they've done. If this war ends today, will Qatar and Oman were key supporters of Iran against the US. Now, if this war ends, the greatest weapon that America has is sanctions. But they could not place sanctions on Iran because Qatar, Oman, UAE were allowing Iranians to send money through informal means. Today, UAE has already said that they're going to impose sanctions on Iran. Now, when you no longer can get money through the informal networks from Oman, from Qatar, and from UAE. America doesn't need to bomb you. They had the biggest riot a month ago because of inflation. America didn't bomb them. They had the biggest riot. Now they've baited them, and they fell for the bait. They were intended to bomb Gulf states like Qatar and Oman.
You know why it was good question? You know why they were very intelligent? I think what they did was a surprise, and what I said was they were very intelligent. See, look at what has happened to the UAE. I was arguing with my friends then. I was telling them that, see, I don't have a problem with people who run into the UAE because they don't pay tax, they don't do this. You see, the ultra rich city. Do you know how many people are paying? Do you know how much people are paying to run away from UAE, Kalu? I have friends that.
Yeah, but how does that address the point I'm making?
I'm telling. Yes, the point I'm making is that Iran has shown that if they're going to go down, they're not going down alone.
Okay, but how does that address the point I'm making? It doesn't address the point I'm making.
And the Arabs are no longer trusting the Americans, because see, Americans, the war has shown that America has a favorite, the Israelis. If you look at the positioning, the support, the Saudis. You watch Bloomberg and this thing. The Saudis, they complaining. They said the Americans left us naked.
Olumide, there's something called the Abrahamic Accords. Accords has Morocco, UAE, Bahrain. The countries that Iran is bombing today are in the Abrahamic Accord. Now, other Arab countries, including Saudi Arabia, refused to join the Abrahamic Accords until the Palestine issue was sorted. Iran has now bombed those countries, pushed them now. It's now no longer it is us versus US and Israel. It is now you are bombing the Gulf states to force the Gulf states to pressure Trump to get the army out of the Middle East. That's why I said they are baiting them. Before this war, it was the Middle East versus America and Israel. Now you hear Azerbaijan, UAE, Oman saying not just sanctions, non-armed, that are going to even consider military strikes back on Iran. These guys can't take Iran on single-handedly. But the conversation now to the man on the street in the Middle East is that Iran is a bad actor that cannot be trusted. If Iran had nuclear weapons, they wouldn't have used it. If they can bomb water distribution plants and hotels in UAE, the first nation that was bombed more, they bombed UAE more than where they even had Air Force troops. They bombed UAE more. What's in UAE? And I think they baited them. This whole thing could have been a whole bait. How many times did they bomb Israel compared to when they bombed UAE? They bombed Dubai more than Tel Aviv. How can you bomb Dubai more than Tel Aviv? And you say you are quote unquote. It's a strange one. I'm not an expert, but it's strange to me that you say you are fighting Israel, and US has based troops in UAE. I get that. But you bombed UAE 800 times, then you bombed Israel like 200 times. Come on, man. It makes no sense.
UAE has, the kind of weapons they have. Most of the Iranian weapons are shot.
Olumide. No.
I'm giving you now. I'm giving you my analysis. No, now Israel is a bit far, and they look at it that for them to exert maximum damage. For them to exact maximum damage with little cost, it's easy to attack it. You can't compare UAE's military strength with Iran.
What about Qatar? Why didn't they bomb Qatar like that? What about Oman? Why didn't they bomb Oman like that? It doesn't make sense. There's no escaping this.
Oman was a mediator to.
And they bombed them.
Oman. They bombed the ship.
Let's get Stanley. Stanley, hi. Sorry about we were called in space. Stanley, we're almost done. We're talking about the risks and reward of a higher oil price in Africa. We talked about the effect on food, the effect on fertilizer. We said African nations are exposed. We talked specifically about Nigeria, how it's now exposed to the imports of food, imports of fertilizer. We said the stock markets have not really moved in Nigeria as other markets are moving, but we've seen the exchange rate change in Nigeria. Somebody said he saw fuel queues in Lagos. I haven't seen them. We've seen the oil prices go up, gas prices go up in Nigeria as well. What's your take, Stanley? Go ahead. Stanley, go ahead.
Thank you very much. It's a very nice space, and I'm very proud to see Africans discussing the issue on a global scale. Now, to be honest, to be fair with the Americans, I mean, the U.S. did not want to go to this war, and I'm really in sympathy with them. The U.S. did not plan to go to Iran. It wasn't their plan at all. But you see, I mean, the Americans are not in charge. decisions are not made in Washington, D.C. at all. Decision is being made in Israel. It is Israel that decides where, when, and how the U.S. go to war, because the entire U.S. Congress has been bought by AIPAC. They have been bribed, and then they have been controlled. And, like the Jewish people own all the banks in America. Americans only go to vote, but they don't get to decide who become the next president, and their foreign policy they do not run an independent foreign policy. So their foreign policy is being dictated to directly, by Israel. And so they themselves, they didn't want to go to the war. There were security experts that advised President Trump that this would have been a disaster. And there were even information that the Americans were begging Israel on behalf of Iran not to go to this war. But they went to the war, and the war consequences are very huge for them. The first thing is that Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz and Bab el Mandi. So the Strait of Hormuz and Bab el Mandi provides at least 25% of the world's, liquefied natural gas and petroleum. That's the first thing. And the reason why Iran is bombing the UAE more is because the UAE have some of the most expensive U.S. military assets in the Gulf region. Bahrain next. So what Iran is doing, Iran is actually achieving her goal, because Iran warned them from the start that any attack on Iran, they will retaliate by bombing U.S. assets in the region. And over again, Iran has warned the Gulf state not to host any foreign military asset on their soil, and that if they do, when there is a conflict, they will become our legitimate target. And of course, under international law, Iran is right, because you have U.S. bombers taking off from UAE. Most of the bombers are flying over from UAE and hitting Tehran. And so they will have to pay for that. And it's not about the short-range missiles or long-range missiles. It is about who's having the largest American military asset, and that's the UAE. Bahrain also is second in place, and then the rest of the other Arab states follow. And these Gulf states, they were not very smart enough. Militarily, geopolitically, they were not smart enough. Why do I say so? Because right now they have transitioned to become a first world nation and hosting huge military assets in that region. It was some of the mistakes that they made and that they will continue to make. And that, they do not see it as a risk to them, but it's a potential military risk to them. And after this war, I hope, a lot of them will have to go back to the drawing table, and they will rethink their own decision. Because being a friend of the United States is very, very risky. To be a friend, to the U.S., but it's deadly to be their ally. They really don't care about anybody. They care only about their interests. And so the one issue of Iran having nuclear weapon, which is not true at all. For example, when they went to the negotiation table, we heard Steve Witkoff and Jai Krishna. These were the two main diplomats, that the U.S. sent. Steve Witkoff suggested to the Iranians that, hey, do not have nuclear weapon, do not enrich, uranium. We will pay for your fuel for at least 10 years. They said Iran agreed to that. And then Israel said, no, whatever Iran agreed to, it's not going to work. The only solution is a military solution. And the Americans told them, no, but like I said, African countries also need to rethink our own economic strategy, because global trends are changing. For example, I see South Africa complaining about fertilizer coming from the Gulf countries. The country like Nigeria should not be complaining about oil prices. But because of the lack of advancement of the Negro race, the lack of advancement, bad leadership, corruption, having stupid people who are in places and that shouldn't be there, Nigeria is one of the largest oil-producing countries. And at this crucial point, it is time for Nigeria to get rich, to carry on economic recovery. While our two enemies are fighting, don't forget, as an African nation and as a black man, when I see them fighting, for me, I'm happy. I wanted to eliminate each other, because they all hate black people anyways.
Stanley, come on. Stanley,
yes.
Yeah, don't go. You don't have to go
yes,
there.
And And so for me, I wanted to just eliminate each other.
Come on, Stanley. Come on, Stanley.
Yes,
Come on,
and so African countries, if we have invested in technology, if we have stopped the corruption and improve our country, but now Nigeria should be filling out for the oil gap that has been created.
Fantastic.
But we see, yes. But now it is as they are fighting.
Stanley, we're gonna round up, yeah.
Just to summarize, as UAE, Saudi Arabia, as they are killing each other and bumping them, and no oil is coming from there, Nigeria should be rejoicing. But we're not rejoicing, we are crying because we have the oil there, we cannot sell the oil, or, we are so corrupt that, that we cannot do anything, and so we are crying, waiting for them. So, thank you very much.
Thank you,
But
Stanley.
I think we need to do better.
Stanley, where are you calling in from?
Oh, I do live in Canada. I do live in a city called Ottawa.
Gotcha, Stanley. Thanks. I appreciate you commenting. Thanks for those comments. We can feel your passion and your direction. It's an interesting situation, but I thank you for the comments. I appreciate them. Thanks for hopping in to talk. And I am TJ Connects. Do I have you here? I am TJ.
Hi, Kalu. How you doing?
I am doing very well. Can you beat what Stanley just did? He went about 2 minutes. He didn't take in air. He was just going all right. So what's your take? There are passions everywhere. Clearly, this war did not start today. I remember way back Jimmy Carter, even before Jimmy Carter, the U.S. sponsored the CIA to do a coup in Iran. We had the Shah. Then under Jimmy Carter, we had the hostage crisis in the embassy. We've had Carter, we've had Reagan, we've had Bush 1, Bush 2, even Obama with Iran. And it's been the issue of sticks and carrots till now. Now we've actually had the first strike on Iran. Now this big war in Iran. It's affected the whole globe. It's affected our wallets, affected markets. What's your take? What's going on?
To be fair, I don't think any analyst can call where this is going to fall to. I've been listening to Olumide all day, and he's quite right to say, actually, no one really knows how this is going to pan out. I think Israel's objective is very clear. America's objective, I don't know, to be honest, because I think we can say Israel definitely would want to destabilize the region, to be the, top power in the region, and Iran has always been a pain in the back for them. So, but nobody can really tell. And this is quite interesting because, I've heard the conversation about UAE being obviously the target. Yeah, they're easier for Iran to target because Israel has a better dome system, defense system. They know Iran very well. They are very much ready for all the attack that will come from Iran. So it's like wasting your weapon. Why don't you destabilize, the Gulf states, and so that those guys can ramp up pressure, obviously, on United States, because U.S. obviously has their bases there, and Iran doesn't like that. That's always been an issue. So, and the guys in the Gulf states, obviously, we can have a big discussion about why they would not want to also go on a full scale, why they wouldn't want to go on the full scale, launch on Iran, because that is also politically very, very dicey for them, because they wouldn't want to suppress that power Iran has, even though they are not big friends of Iran. But immediately you go on a full scale war with Iran and squash all that power, Israel is going to dominate that region in the way that they also don't want. Regardless, there's difference. So it's tricky. It's a tricky situation. I don't think anyone can really call it. We would see when the markets open on Monday and see how things have panned out. I think for Trump, he wants a short win. He's not in there because the midterms are coming. Obviously, you're in the States and you understand this better. He doesn't want this going on. For the Iranians, the longer it goes, yes, it's going to be tough for them, but it works well for them. And so how long do you want to drag this on for? Does the world really have the appetite for this? When you look at Europe, right, we already have high energy prices. The UK, for example, the energy prices are high already. We don't want inflations. All of this is impacting Ukraine and, Russia still with their war going on. And that's all impacting energy prices. The people, there's no appetite for this war. It's quite unnecessary. It's a war of choice, like everyone has said. But how it turns out or how it's going to pan, no analyst will be able to tell you that at all, because Iran, whether you like it or not, yes, Iran has been, I mean, you can say they've been an oppressive regime for a long time. Then their appetites within and outside of Iran wanting for there to be a change, obviously. However, if you start to bomb oil depots, schools, you would find out real quick, right, that the people you're, saying or thinking would come and support the fall of the leadership. The appetite would dry up very fast, very, very quickly. And you will struggle there. And Iran, pay attention very well. Iran is not a new civilization. They've been there for a long, long time. Nobody really can tell you that they know everything about Iran. It's 90 million people span across a very wide space. These guys are not to just be, this is not Venezuela. Let's put it that way. Yeah, so we don't know.
But if we could say that in Venezuela, it's Venezuelans. In Iran, I didn't know this. I always assumed Iran was this Islamic nation, very conservative. Everybody was, like a mini Ayatollah. They had Jews in their parliament. They have a very, very young population. They have lots of tribes and ethnicities, and that the biggest religion there is not even, it's not like Islam. Is this what's the word? Zoroastric, whatever. Is their ancient religion that they had. Then Islam came in, and there's a lot of folks that still worship. As what I'm trying to say, it's a very, very diverse country. Like you're saying, no one can sit here and pass it out. It was when we go into Iraq, I knew they had Shiites, Sunnis, and they all behaved differently. In Iraq today, they have Shiites in Iraq that are more aligned to Iran than they are to Iraq. I think the mistake everyone is making is saying that Iran is 2,000-year-old civilization. The US can't break them. It might not happen today. But what they've shown, what I'm trying to say, if US leaves this war today, what have they shown? They've shown that Iran will do anything, not Iranian people, but Iranian government, the mullahs, will do anything to stay in power, including killing their people and bombing the West. I think once this war is over, you're going to see a massive investment by UAE, by Qatar, by Bahrain, by Oman, by everyone to build up their capacity of the Iron Dome. You might actually see them go into a quote-unquote Middle East NATO with a country like Israel to have an Iron Dome, and they will never allow Iran have a nuclear bomb. There's a tweet I'm looking at here from Hillary Clinton when she was running for office as the president. Hillary Clinton, how far back was this? During Obama. She said, and I'm quoting her, "I want the people of Iran to know that I will bomb Iran if they try to get a nuclear weapon." This is Hillary Clinton talking when she was running for the presidency with Barack Obama, a senator called Barack Obama. This is how far it's gone. So to make it a Trump thing, no. Go ahead. Go ahead, Olivia.
Can I just do something to I listened to your disposition and the previous speaker, which I totally agree on. But I want you to also look at the dynamics of the global economy. Trump, I don't know, maybe because you're in America, but in Europe, Trump has increased the anti-American narrative. France used to be an heavy supporter of America.
Really?
It has dropped. Yeah, it has dropped in terms of alliance. Yeah, I'll speak on that one voice. That's dropped. And you see, for me, I try to stay away because I'm pro-American naturally. Yes, most of my income comes from I invest in America. I'm pro-American naturally, but I'm also a realist. I look at the fact that he has made Americans unsafer in the long term because you need to look at the perception the Middle East are looking at America right now and Europeans. And also, I see that many doors will be open in many years ahead. So, yes, you could talk about the fact that it might unify, but does it make America much more better than where they were? I don't think so, honestly. The optics. The world already has already divided the world, and that's for me, it's my own concern because I look at things from different people's perspective, not just from my perspective. From my perspective, I don't see America losing their number one position. At least, probably this century. But I see their powers weakening considerably to a point that they would have less interference.
Okay, but let me ask a question. Do you think it would have been helpful if this war is over and Iran says we're no longer going to say death to America? I mean, you look at it this way, you are a country that went to their embassy, you entered their embassy and grabbed their folks, kept their folks for 444 days. You have sponsored folks to go out and kill them, their soldiers. Every time you start the same way in Nigeria we pray when we do national anthem. In Iran, they do death to Israel and America. You want to get nuclear missiles. You have oil, but you want to get uranium. You have said you want to get a nuclear bomb. Would it help if they also said, okay, America, we're not going to pursue, even if we're going to pursue, we're not going to say death to America. I mean, we're saying Trump and we're saying America, but which president will sit down? If Nigeria sat down and Cameroon started saying death to Nigerians, and Cameroon went and started to get the nuclear weapons, you are saying Nigeria will sit down and wait for Cameroon to get the nuclear weapon, then we invade them?
Can I please answer that question, Kalu?
Yeah, sure. Stanley.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Stanley. Just hold him after you stand. We'll get you in.
Yeah, I want you to understand this thing that ideology is a very important thing. When you attack people's faith, their culture, it unifies and amplifies it. I look at the number of leaders killed, just like the way you need to understand the way the spiritual leader of Iran was.
But I'm talking about years ago. Years ago. They didn't kill the guy now.
I'm coming somewhere. Now they killed him. They killed him like a match. They killed him. That's the truth.
They killed him in 2025. They've been chanting death to Israel since 1970.
I'm going to get somewhere. There are not many leaders in the world that has been killed that way. Even in history, there are not many leaders in the world that has been killed that way. So that is not a plus for America. And that's why even America is saying that, see, we did not have handle political. If you look at many statements, they try to make it that we are more focused on military attacks. They have little on political. They know why they said that. Because for me, I'm looking at the effect. Then you also need to understand that in Nigeria, we have shared Nigerians. In Kaduna,
and they were killed. They were slaughtered They were slaughtered in Nigeria, and are not being slaughtered. They were killed to the man. The military went to their base, raised their base to the ground. Who talked? Nobody talked.
I'm trying to explain something. When you kill the leader of a country, it has ramifications, whether you like it or not.
I don't know, man.
You understand? Whether you like it or not, it has ramifications.
Yeah, but he was killed this year, Olumide.
And see, yes, I'm explaining to you. Now, what has changed, and which I want you to understand, is that hardliners has been hardened. So you either eradicate all the hardliners, which is almost impossible.
No, but you're not answering my question, Olumide.
The same mistake US made in Libya and Iraq is that the people they replace with are worse than the people.
Yeah, but you're not answering my question, Olumide. They've been chanting death to America since the 1970s.
Can I please answer your question, please?
No, I want only to answer.
Hold on, Stanley. Now, Kalu, let me answer your question on that part. Yes, they've been hostile against the West after the removal of Shah. I'm not disputing that. But history has shown that you can see. I feel that the Iranians could have been dealt in a much better approach. This approach was not the best approach, as far as I'm concerned. You understand? I'm not a geopolitical expert, but I feel that this was not the best approach. Because what you have achieved
is the same approach Hillary Clinton wanted to do.
All the things America has done in the last 2 decades in terms of war intervention, which has been successful, Libya, Iraq. Tell me one country that has been successful.
South Korea, Germany, Japan, Grenada, Venezuela, Colombia, Asia.
I'm talking of Middle East.
Egypt, Middle East, Egypt, Middle East, Egypt. Yes, Egypt. During the Suez Canal, the U.S. intervened and stopped the UK, and France.
You don't understand what I'm saying. I'm talking about regime change. I think
Egypt.
Egypt. They didn't do anything in regime change. In the history, you look at it, it was the British and the English, the Suez Canal thing, the French. See, what I'm trying to make you understand is that the Arabs have a very strong ideology.
But you haven't answered the question I'm asking you. You've not answered the question. You've not answered the question I'm asking. I am saying, let's take a normal American boy that was born in 1970. He was a boy in 1970. He grew up, his father was killed in the Middle East. This country starts saying death to Americans from 1970 till 2025.
That does not give you audacity.
I didn't say it does. I am saying that would you think it would help if this country going forward, there are many countries that hate America. Many countries hate America. North Koreans don't say death to America. China doesn't say death to America. Many countries, does France say death to America? No.
That's not enough to raise a war. That's not enough.
But when you want to then get nuclear weapons and ballistic weapons, it's enough to raise a war. Hillary Clinton said, and I quote, she will bomb Iran if they want to get nuclear weapons. Hillary Clinton. Obama also had the same point. He would negotiate with them without preconditions.
From an American view.
But they are the ones bombing. They are the ones bombing.
You know the point of your argument? You are looking at it from an American view. You're not looking at it from a holistic view. Now, the problem is okay, America is the police of the world. No problem with that. We understand that. But what I'm saying for you is that the effect of what is happening, has it made America more popular? No. Would the Arab world like America more? No.
But Americans safer? Yes.
American safer.
Yeah, they say
that is debatable, Kalu.
But if you don't have a nuclear armed Iran, is America safer? It's debatable. If Iran got
no one has been killing Americans with nuclear weapons for the how many years?
No one has ever killed anyone with nuclear weapons, so we can't use that point.
So that's what I'm saying. You can't
if Iran got a nuclear weapon, they would have given it to the Houthis. They would have given it to Hezbollah. Why should I say that? They've given them everything. They've given them everything. Why not the nuclear weapons? Why not?
Pakistan has nuclear weapons.
Have they said and Pakistan and America are good friends? They don't hate each other. I don't think Pakistan says death to America. I don't think they chanted that. They're not friends. The government of Pakistan.
Death to America. I just want to give you the answer if you can be patient with me. The first thing we have to understand Iran's history. America was the one that brought the Ayatollah to power.
It doesn't matter the history. It doesn't matter the history.
Mohammed Mossadegh. Now, let me just give you the history so that you can
understand. No, we don't want a history lesson. Stanley, I don't want a history lesson. What I'm saying is this: it's a very simple question. And let's say you are not for America, you're not for Iran. You are an independent person. You are not for America, you're not for Iran. And I'm saying an independent person will say that if a country is saying at the highest levels of government, death to America, and that same country wants to go and get a nuclear weapon and ballistic missiles, then there is no evidence of what?
We know, Kalu, we know fully well that it is wrong.
You guys, come on, man. Come on, man.
Let us look at something, Kalu. We have to ask ourselves this very important question. Who brought the Iranian Ayatollah to power?
It doesn't matter who brought the damn Ayatollah to power. The point is that in 1970,
Ayatollah came from France. Iran's first. Let me finish, Kalu. Just a moment, please. You can Google this. It's all on Google. It's on history now. Iran's first prime minister was called Mohammed Mossadegh. Mossadegh was democratically elected prime minister. And then when he came to the presidency, Iran was a secular state. It was a nice place. American, British oil company were there exploiting the people. And so Mossadegh decided that he was going to nationalize all of the American and the British assets. The same thing they did in Liberia. The CIA got mad. they organized a coup d'etat and they removed Mossadegh from power in 1953 and they brought a Shah. So what is happening in Iran is their own making. And then just to know that the Ayatollah was in exile in France.
Let me do this. We're gonna get Cyrus. Let me do this. I think we know the issue. Let's get Cyrus. Cyrus, hi. We've lost track a bit.
Hi, good evening, Carlo. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, Cyrus, take us back to track. You know, I didn't want this to be an Iran-US thing. Take us.
Yes, I don't.
And we're going to close. We're going to close pretty soon. I don't want to be an Iran. I think we're not going to change. The guys are going to bomb. They're still bombing today. We're not going to change that. You know. And I apologize to the guys listening in. So Cyrus, take us home.
There's no way you can. There's no way you can stop people's ideological persuasion, and these things are like geopolitical issues that goes beyond just public commentary. What concerns us, at least on our own continent, is how we are now a repository of all the things that is going on and how it affects prices of commodity, particularly energy costs, right? So for me in Nigeria, we all know that wherever the price is done, it's an edict for us. So if we have high crude oil price, the petrol price is going to go up, right? It's going to affect things like exchange, it's going to affect things like, inflation and things like that. And if we have low energy price or low crude oil price, it's going to affect things like the government revenue, also affect inflation, also affect other things. So it's very, very difficult for us. And I feel like it's something that it's a accumulation of decades of lack of vision, right? We are the top producing nation of crude oil in Africa. We produce something less than 1.4 million barrels per day. The country that comes next to us is Libya, that produces about 1.2 million barrels per day. And we get a lot of revenue from that. Our excess crude oil account has been depleted. Usually a country like ours that is very, very petrol dependent or petrol import dependent, what we should have done is have a strategic petroleum reserve whereby when there is a kind of global shock like this, we can then release certain supply so that we don't have issue with prices. But because we spend decades and decades on subsidizing pump prices rather than treating the real issue, which has always been facing us, we keep postponing things like that. And then we find ourselves in this kind of debacle. So for me, it's a very difficult. If you look at a country like Kenya, for example, Kenya is the main supplier of petroleum products to the East Africa. So Kenya supply Uganda, Tanzania, and other countries like that. They have a reserve, right, that they depend on. And I think the Minister of Energy said sometime last week, before the whole thing escalated to this, that they still have enough reserve to supply, the country to the end of April. Now, Kenya does not produce crude oil, right? And Kenya does not even consume as much energy as we do. So if Kenya can be doing that, how much more Nigeria, right? So now you have a situation whereby we have crude oil price hitting $100 per barrel in the next, maybe in the next coming days or so. For me, I think like we still have a huge supply glut. The global supply is still around 109 million barrels, right? And which outweigh demand. So if you look at it, despite the escalation, and look at what OPEC is doing, right, in their price adjustment, they still maintain that they are not going to overflow the market with huge price, right? So they still just believe that the supply and the demand is still a bit, there's still tension there, and the supply is still much. The Secretary of Energy for America, for example, Chris Wright, said today that most of the hike in prices we see in the market is driven by sentiment. And it's given by the fear of the players and whatnot. Of course, there's the fundamentals, the state of moves, the blockage and whatnot. All those fundamentals are still there. But maybe in the coming days, when things normalize themselves a little bit, maybe the sentiment can shift away, and they will start seeing some kind of normalization within the $80 per barrel, $19 per barrel range, right? But for now, for us as a country, no strategic petroleum reserve, right, where we can, mitigate against high price. No excess crude oil accounts where we can have what I might call like an ad hoc subsidy, where the government can, help mitigate those prices. and then we are left, we're exposed to the global shock. So if prices keep going up, and this also tells us something, that the crude oil market is a very volatile market. It's not up to us. It's not up to Nigeria to determine, what the price will be. And if you're in that kind of situation, you have to always have a buffer. You have to always have something that keeps you, that holds you back. We're a country of 200 million people. We consume a huge amount of petrol, about 60 million liters of petrol daily. What are you going to do at the point where the prices, become volatile and it's hawkish, indefinitely? So those are the kind of conversation I think we should be having. But like I said, decades of mismanagement, corruption, loopholes, and things like this have now left us in the mercy of whatever happened in Iran and America. And they have Nigerian debating, is Iran right? Is America right? It doesn't really matter because it's immaterial. The price will still go up if they want to go up, right? So I feel like it's just a reminder for us that the kind of vision we should have as a country, and how we prepare for things like this. We are not prepared enough, to be honest, Kalu.
Yeah, question real quick, sorry. Did I hear you say Nigeria has no strategic petroleum reserve?
Nigeria doesn't have. That's what I said just now.
Jeez.
Okay. We don't have any buffer right now that can help us mitigate against high price.
Okay, second question. If Nigeria gets this windfall, what do you think, I'm going to ask Olim this question as well, what do you think is going to be the best use of this financial windfall Nigeria is going to get from this hike in oil price? Where should it go to?
I don't think we're going to have any kind of serious windfall for two reasons. Our cost of production is still very high. So about 60% of what we produce still going to cost, right? And in terms of revenue to the NNPC, we still have a huge, crude for sale agreement. So if it does not prolong, the high prices, Nigeria may not be getting high windfall on net in terms of the money that gets into the government. So we should not be too excited about that, right? And it's also keep in mind that we have a huge, gap in terms of budget deficit. So even if the money is coming in and we benchmark, is it not $74 per barrel benchmark?
64.
We still have to finance those deficits without going to capital market and aggressively borrow, right? So those things have to come in place. So it's not just, we have a lot of money coming in, except it's prolonged and NNPC balance is sheet number two. And we reduce our cost of production, right? So Nigeria still have the highest cost of production globally, around $40 to $50 per barrel. In production costs.
Yeah,
so how much is left to share?
Yeah, but Cyrus, we are still going to make money today because benchmark is 64. Yeah, 64, and we're always sending oil at about 90. Even if we don't spend that money, there's more money coming to the budget. I'm asking the question, where do you think, should we go for infrastructure, debt repayment? What do you think, even if it's $1 billion excess we make, where should we take that money to? Where should that money go to?
What we usually do before, according to law, is that we have a percentile of the crude oil excess going to what we call excess crude oil account. But due to the dovish crude oil price during the Buhari era and mismanagement and the purchase of military hardware and things like that, that was depleted. So what would have happened, right, in an idle contest is that we redirect the fund to excess crude oil account. And then, like I said in my previous submission, that we can actually use part of that as a limited, targeted, subsidy, which is a word that everybody's kind of have. This Pavlov dog reaction to now in Nigeria subsidy, but we can use that as a subsidy to mitigate against price within a short period, a short window. We know the number of people, the players that are into that are in the system. So we have the Dangote refinery, for example, which is a local player, which is a domestic player, and then we have the Orandos, we have the 11 PLC, we have the other guys that import the petrol. There can be a petroleum subsidy fund for a short period of time that can mitigate against this and not really affect market in the short term. But that would have been like my own suggestion. And of course, the naira for crude should also, I think it's something that we should also put more emphasis on. But for that to happen, we still have to produce more. Right, so there have to be more production.
Gotcha. Olim, they just to ask you the same question. If Nigeria made a few $1 billion from this war because of the excess crude account, where do you think we should send that money to that will have the biggest impact, scale for poverty? And what do you think we should do with that money, Olim?
Honestly, that's a fiscal question, but personally, I feel like we should reduce our debt exposure and optimize consumption. However, I think, the problem facing Nigeria is multidimensional. You can't also disregard insecurity. That has also impacted agriculture. So, for me, I listened to what Cyrus was saying. I think it's going to be positive, to be honest with you. Even though, maybe when he was talking about cost in terms of current price, the cost of between $35 to $50 barrel in Nigeria, depending on what you look at, the upstream, and when you look at security arrangements and things like that. But when oil is selling at $100, yes, you're getting much higher premium, And for me, I think if the war drags on, it's going to trickle influence into Nigeria because Nigeria is much safer. The Gulf of Guinea, Nigeria is much safer, to be honest. Then it's going to also create oil majors will look at some point maybe diversifying, reducing their exposure in volatile regions, and with Dangote refinery bringing up, ramping up production, full production, I see its market share increasing in coastal, in West Africa, particularly Ghana, Togo, because now these countries will now focus inwardly and try to grab. So Dangote increasing his production capacity to 1.2 or 1.4, I think is a positive thing. I think it's a long thing for the Naira, the Nigerian economy, and industrialization. Finally, I see a new down. I think where Nigeria just needs to work on is the political side. For me, economically, I think the worst seems to be over on the macro side. We just need to consolidate. Nigeria's richest men are increasing their investments in these sectors. We're seeing what Tony Dinulu is bringing out in transport power, and we are seeing the fact that that sector is going to be. So I'm cautiously optimistic. It's just that the fiscal side has not impressed me so far.
So you don't, but right now I'm seeing the money being spent on salaries. I think the army salaries have gone up. I think NYS has also increased their allocation and all that. So I agree with you. I think the best use of the excess funds should go to pay down the Eurobonds. If we pay down Eurobonds, we automatically increase the revenues of the 2026 budget because now we will have no debt service in huge amounts of money. The revenues go up, our costs go down by just going and buying back those Eurobonds at using the dollars that we're going to get. It's a one-off. This revenue is a one-off. We're not going to fight Iran wars every year. So if we get these funds and we're able to pay down some debt, that would be really helpful. Also to stimulate consumption. Imagine if we pay the contractors that are being owed, pay them back their monies, just pay folks that are being owed. That will really boost the consumption in the economy. Cyrus, your hand is up.
Yeah, so I want to add that currently where we are fiscally, like in terms of budget, right, we don't even have much wiggle room in terms of windfall from crude oil price. I think the first thing we need to do, and we've spoken about this on length, Kalu, on different spaces, is to first, reorganize or readjust what our forecast is in terms of budget itself. Because this can actually help us, in terms of financing, the external, one you mentioned, the external debt servicing and things like that. But we are still in the rut. Right? If we look at our expenditure and our deficit, even if prices go as high as $100 or $150 per barrel, which I also believe that is temporary, it's very, very temporal, right? It's within a short period of time. We still have to use that revenue to finance all the shortfalls, right? Because another thing that is happening currently is that as inflation is dropping and as NPR rate is dropping, what we use to mitigate against those finances, like the FPI, it's also reducing alongside, and it will continue to go dovish. So, for a country that is thinking, the first thing, in my opinion, would be like you need to adjust what your projection of budget deficit should be, and then re-engineer your public finance. Then you can start talking about getting windfall. What we used to have before is that we have excess. Nigeria does not have the language of excess in terms of revenue is no longer in our vocabulary right now. because what we are looking at is bailout. We just want to bail out from where we currently are, and that's the issue. So I don't want to give people the expectation that, oh, we have this high money coming in. It will come in, but you'll be surprised that it will also be used to finance debt. A lot of the foreign currency that we're going to earn from crude oil is going to go to debt financing. And because, first of all, deflation has made our currency worthless, and secondly, the rate is now very, very high also. So we have a 9% euro bond rate, for example. That means you are financing at 9% of dollar rate. That's a very, very high premium. So I think that we need to correct some things in budget. Any government that don't talk about correcting the way the budget is being rearranged, and they are not serious, because excess crude account is from excess what you have left from your spending. If you don't have anything left, you are just, you will not have that to keep behind. That's just the truth.
And the president has said that 2026 is going to be the year where we stop the rollover budget. So I know this year we have 5 budgets. We have 2024 budget and supplementary, 5 budgets and supplementary. 2026 we just have the budget. But this year we want to sort of collapse everything, which is why I'm saying that if we can take that revenue and pay down the debt in those budgets, that sort of releases or makes it easier for us to merge all those budgets into one. So by 2027, we have a cleaner budget. I don't think we want to go into 2027 with 3 or 4 budgets. That would make fiscal planning a bit difficult. Like Isolumde has said, the macro side seems to have stabilized. This is actually a gift to Nigeria. This is a gift to Nigeria. We didn't plan for this. We have oil at 100. Oil at 100 is better than oil at 70. Much better than oil at 64. So this is a gift to Nigeria, and we have to take this gift as a seed and invest it. Again, remember Olumide and Cyrus, after the war is over, I will not be surprised if Qatar comes to buy NNPC. Because look at it for them. If they own NNPC and NNPC owns gas in Nigeria, they now have a gas outlet away from the Straits of Hormuz, away from the missiles, that you can then export gas should anything happen to your refineries or capacity in Middle East. So I think NNPC is a big buy now, even with this huge debt that they have. Anyone that looks at NNPC now, just by geopolitical considerations, is now a better buy, even than the Dangote, because of their gas, their pipelines, their assets that they have. What do you guys think? Will this now? Yeah.
I totally agree with you, but when you said that analysis, I was like, in fact, because a lot of people, if you ask me, NNPC or Dangote, based on things on paper, which I'll buy NNPC. Because they control Nigeria's reserves, they have interest in almost every, or even Dangote, they have 7.5% in Dangote.
Yeah, exactly.
However, I will not buy because of the baggages in that company. I remember when this man from Barclays, Bob Diamond, bought into Union Bank, and I was making an argument to my colleagues here that, Nigerian businesses are not, you don't use financial analysis to get the best from Nigerian businesses. You also need to look at the geopolitical, you look at the politics behind, and look at it. Union Bank then it looked like a good buy, but they didn't make a time. The guy had to sell. And so one of the things I've understood is that, the cartel in the energy industry will frustrate Qatar here. Just the way they did to Bob Diamond in Union Bank, because every industry in Nigeria has it. And the ones in banking industry, they are learning when you want to compare them with the energy industry. So for me, I think we need to remove those baggages. Look at those refineries. It's either we turn them to universities or we sell them at a discount.
They are dead.
They are dead. We sell at a discount.
Yeah.
They are dead. Yeah. They are dead, honestly, because I remember when Dangote, when Obasanjo offered Shell, they refused to buy. And when this Obasanjo succeeded in selling to Dangote and Otedola, that Yar'Adua reversed it was very painful. Then we thought that Yar'Adua was being helpful, but now we've seen the damage it has done. Look at the amount of money we spent. If we spend that on education, do you know how many piggy banks we would have created by now? Do you know how many? So look at the compounding effect of making terrible decisions on things. And we are still talking about reinvesting in those refineries that their total capacity will not be even up to Dangote. So I don't understand the way our critical policy thinkers think about it, but yeah, true, NNPC has a very attractive It's just the baggages around that company that scares a lot of people.
Cyrus, what's your take? NNPC is going to be a big bride after the war. You think Qatar, Bahrain will come here? I think Cyrus is off. Let me get Tolu Berry real quick. Tolu, I've got Tolu. Your hand is up. Then we'll get Ken. Tolu, go ahead.
Hi, Kalu. I just want to chime in based on everything that has been said. And one thing for sure is that no one knows what's going to happen. I think this war is more of a spiritual warfare, and the objective is not clear to anyone at the moment. But in the fullness of time, we would look back and kind of understand what's really going on now. And I think it's the beginning of something that's going to last for a long time. Secondly, I think there's a blind spot that has not been discussed today that it's on my radar for this week, and it can lead to a serious market correction this week, and that's the private credit in the US. It's something that started last week, and I think it's going to be exacerbated this week, so it's something that I'm watching.
Give me the connection. I'm talking about like Blue Owl and all. What's the connection with private credit in the US and Nigerian market? What's the connection?
So the summary is that there are private credit companies in the US that kind of facilitate fundings for corporations who would regardlessly have been qualified in commercial banks to get a loan, right? So these loans were issued 5 years ago, and the time of maturity is now. So a lot of those fundings are now bad, so to speak, right? So a lot of, and once these rumors start going on, it cascades faster than one can react. So, and it's a whole conundrum in terms of how they've manipulated the
but no, I'm just trying to see the connection with that and Nigeria, because that's a private credit in America. It's been out since 2 weeks ago. Blue Owl has collapsed. People are watching it.
So the connection with Nigeria is that some of the fundings from Nigerian corporations also come from those private lenders overseas, right? So it could cascade. When US market starts to fall, it affects global market as well. So I want us to keep an eye on that. And when you talked about the prices of gold and silver coming down, in relation to other broader markets, I think a lot of these prices, prices generally are affected by sentiment, liquidity, and fundamentals, right? I think the sentiment is very low, and there's no liquidity in the system, and that's why these prices are kind of not efficient. But I'm always a big believer in gold and silver as an asset to mitigate what's going on right now. And I think in time, this asset they'll start.
But they are down. The market doesn't agree with you. The market is saying that why should I hold gold and earn no dividends when I can hold dollar and earn dividends? I think that's what the market is saying. They agree with you that gold is a hedge for uncertainty, but why hold gold when you can hold dollar to get something? Because why hold gold and earn nothing when you can hold dollar?
My response is that year to date alone, gold is about 17%.
Yeah, but you're not looking at year to date. You're looking at the investor today is saying, why hold gold today, not year to date. He's going to invest today. He's going to post a return from today, right? So he's going to say, if I put it today, if I buy gold today, I earn no dividends, but I protect my portfolio, right? But if I buy gold, if I buy dollars today, I earn 2-3%. That's what I'm looking at. You see that's why I think it's down.
I get your point, but this time is not a time for being too optimistic, right? And when you go into assets that rely on optimistic of growth and earnings and all of that, you can start going into more risky assets. But I think we are going into a sea change where we need to be very cautious and very conservative in terms of our investment mentality. So that's why it's better to protect capital. So I think it's time to settle in gold, and in the long run, when things kind of die down, you can then go into more risky assets. I mean, that's my own approach.
All right, fantastic. Well, Olumide, we're going to let you go very soon. Let's go get Ken, and we'll come back to Olumide and we'll call it today, right? Ken, real quick, then we'll come back to Olumide and we'll call it today. Thanks, guys. We'll be here since 7 p.m. Nigerian time. You guys are still here. Really appreciate you guys. Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carlo. Great submission by everyone. And I just wanted to add quickly regarding the current situation and how it affects Nigeria, long run. And to be honest, we are fortunate to have someone like Dangote and the refinery at this very time. I can't even imagine how much we'll be paying for this commodity called PMS and diesel right now. To definitely be upwards of 2,000. There's no doubt about that. But we are grateful for that at this very moment, and how it has helped to bring some stability. Let me put it that way, to our energy market. But in terms of you asked a very important question in terms of the diversification approach of maybe Qatar, energy probably coming to buy NNPC. But for me, I don't see that happening because, like Olumide said, the baggage of NNPC is quite huge, and I don't see them coming to play in the onshore, shallow water region of Nigeria. Maybe in the deep water section, yes, we can have people like that coming in, because with this war being triggered, it means that the energy industry will remain volatile as long as the current Iranian regime remains. Because what that means is that Saudi Arabia getting their oil out of the Persian Gulf to the international market will continue to remain a challenge. We have about 20% of production coming from that part of the world, and with this kind of instability happening right now, there are predictions that crude oil price will get to 150, which can trigger a recession in the world. It's a situation we don't want to see, and yes, it's good news for Nigeria, but again, it's a kind of news that comes in good, and on the other side, it is bad. You don't want really high energy cost across board. It's not good for anyone. It's not good for a country like Nigeria that is trying to grow. Energy costs, we don't want it to be high. I hope and I pray for a resolution of this war, so we can have a stable energy costs. But to that extent, it's a good time for Nigeria, because what that means is that these oil and gas companies will start looking for stable areas where they can invest in the long run. And as you can see, Nigeria is going to be getting a lot of the attention. We are seeing the gas pipeline going to Morocco, which was agreed not to be funded before by the European Union. That was just prior to the Ukraine-Russian war. But right now, that project is ongoing. It's expected to continue to Morocco and eventually to Europe, while Europe is still trying to see how they can diversify 100% from Russia in terms of their gas needs. So yes, we will see more investment in Nigeria. In fact, it started coming in the energy sector. More will come from Nigeria, but again, my worry is the fiscal side. The fiscal side needs to be disciplined, and so the whole of Nigeria can start seeing the benefits of all of this investment. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Olumide. We've had you here for close to 3 hours. You've given us all those great insights. Really do appreciate that. I want to find out just your closing remarks. If you can touch also on just the benefits you think this would happen, and we'll spend more of the space on the issues and the opportunities that. When I mean opportunities, I mean the issues that are not good. What do you think, as you close, are going to be those things that you think are going to be good for the nation and also good for the individual investor? What should we hold in our back pocket as we go out into this Monday on where to see opportunities to invest for Nigeria and for ourselves? What's your take, sir?
I think Nigeria is still the place. Nigeria still holds bright future. I can't bet against the Nigerian people. Over 200 million people. We have the youngest population in the world. Goodman Sachs said before the end of this century, Nigeria will be among the top 5 biggest economies in the world. Yes, our politics might be disjointed. Yes, we have issues back and forth. We don't agree on so many things, but you can take the positivity from that with Nigeria. We're full of energy. You can't write us out. It's not always over until it's over. We have the dire spirit, and look at our richest men in Nigeria. I look at the way where they were coming from and where they are. Yes, things are not perfect, but I'm more of an optimistic, maybe because of the way the market brought me up. I look at the positive side. I try to do my best and complain later rather than complain first, then do my best. So I believe that we should look at this war, Middle East, and pray that it doesn't get out of hand because the world is much more connected. However, I think fiscal players should look at the biggest benefit they have investing in the Nigerian youth. All is getting away. Yes, crude oil prices are up, but I think the Nigerian jewel is not crude oil. I think it's human capital. I think we need to understand that. I think the sooner we do that, the better for us. I also feel that it shows that many countries are proactive, and planning matters a lot. See, you could take a lot from the Iranians, but see how much with sanctions they've been able to build things that can even protect them, and they control their energy industry. So it tells you that our policymakers should start thinking beyond taking women to hotels, building houses in overseas, hiding loot, things. They should look more about investing in the next generation. And I think for us, like one of the things about knowledge is that it shows that life is vanity. That we were born with nothing and we're going with nothing, but our names can at least outlast our wealth. Abartista, nobody knows how much Abartista was worth, but the things Abartista did is still forever reckoned in physics and mathematics. So I think for me it's very, very important, Carlo. And thanks for hosting this space. Conversation. These are conversations that I wish the average Nigerian should. It's not about who's right or who's wrong. The idea of our conversation is just to bring rationality, reasoning, and also more facts for the audience to really pick on. For investments, I think Nigerian stock market. I think for me, I'm not a stockbroker, but yeah, I'm cautiously looking at the market with one eye. I feel like the market has rallied so much. There's no stock for me that I think for me, I rather want to go in. So I'm waiting for new stocks or a deep correction. If I don't get that deep correction, I'll hold on to the stocks I have, or I'll wait for the IPO. But for those that are coming to the market, I think lessons are learned. Money is made when the streets are bad, not when the streets are filled with gold. You don't have the opportunity, so you have to wait for the opportunity. There's always going to be opportunity. You have to be patient. You can be patient, acquire skills, invest in the money market. Almost every Nigerian bank has money market exposure. If you are very liquid, you can invest in the primary market, speak to your investment banker or stock brokerage firm. I wish you the best week, and I want to tell you that you shouldn't give up, that there's always going to be an opportunity for you. Thank you very much, Carlo.
Thank you, Lumide. Cyrus, your hand is up. You had a final thing to say before we go, or just up because you good? Cyrus, you good? Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And it's been a wonderful space, right? We did risk and rewards of a higher crude price for Nigeria. We've seen the risks, we've seen the rewards. The rewards are not yet coming. With high oil prices today are not yet a reward because, of course, it's translating to higher PMS price at the pumps. We seem to have the way we have structured our oil a bit. It needs some working on, right? We're able to take the full advantage of the oil we're exporting. It's not fair to blame Mr. Dangote. He's importing crude oil to refine and to sell. He buys that crude oil at nearly $100 a barrel. So he's got to also make his money and pay his staff. So not fair to blame him at all. We are paying for not having a functional economy that has got local refineries to refine local crude oil and to then export the byproducts, which you can use to subsidize those local portion of PMS. We can't have an economy where there is no subsidy. Let me say it again. We can't have an economy where everyone pays market prices. There is no country in the world where no one enjoys a subsidy. There are always going to be poor people. That's what the Bible said. So we have to have a regime whereby we're able to identify who is poor and subsidize them. Not just who is poor. If we subsidize the public transportation, that's also a subsidy for the economy. If we subsidize the manufacturers by giving them diesel at the price and in a manner that they can capture that subsidy at a cost that the nation would pay, that's also a plus to the environment. We can't just ask everyone to go pay commercial and then complain about inflation and lack of consumption. So the government has got to be a bit integrated in how it thinks. Subsidy is not a bad word. The US subsidizes, UK, OECD subsidizes, everyone subsidizes. What we have done in the past was an abuse. That should not be an excuse not to come in and help poor people. No one can buy fuel at 1,500 and survive. No one can go through life. VAT is up, right? Your cost for fuel subsidy are up. The dollar is up. And then you say, well, it's a free economy. Go and survive in it. It doesn't work that way. The government has got to come in and subsidize something for the poor, means tested. You can't subsidize rich people. If you have a V8, pay your taxes. If you are renting a keke, you should be able to get a subsidy. And we have BVN, we have NIN, we have phones that we can use to integrate and make sure that the subsidy is enjoyed at the pumps. It's measurable, it's valid, it is corruption free. That can happen. Let me end it with that. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a special guest today. I hope I'll see you guys next week again. We'll have another topic. Talking, of course, money, the economy, and finance. My name remains Kalu Aja. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much, and bye.